PM. We're in order. Roll call, Parkowski here,
Reyes here.
Church here.
Walker here.
and Supervisor Wales is excused. All right, pledge of allegiance, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please stand for a second here. As you know, Officer Durbin's funeral was in Milwaukee today. Young police officer, sounded like a great guy, and the funeral was today, so a moment of silence, please. Thank you. All right, all of our postings in order for tonight's meeting, please.
Yes, they are.
Approval on the agenda.
I had requested that we add a note under unfinished business to schedule a meeting to finalize the snow plowing numbers and timeline and everything, so we had it documented. I don't see that on the agenda.
The snow plowing is being discussed under attorney's report.
And based on that, we'll decide if we have to have another meeting, we can schedule that later.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Approval on the agenda, motion please.
Motion approved.
Second.
Bill, motion, Barb, second, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None, 4-0. Okay, meeting minutes. First one in our packet is the January 4th Planning Commission meeting minutes.
Yes, a motion to approve January 4th Planning Commission minutes as written.
We have a second.
I'll second.
Barb, second, discussion.
I see
Yes.
on, oh, no, sorry, it's not the planning commission, that's the
Okay.
non-board meeting.
Okay, so January 4th, you okay?
Yep.
Okay, on the motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. All right, then we have the regular board meeting, January 9th. I didn't make any marks, I see.
Motion approved.
On page 1, under chairperson's report, just in bullet point 2, there will be training available.
Okay, I can, account for that. At the meeting that the chairman and I attended in Whitewater in February, they indicated that there will be a board of review training offered virtually on May 1st, that they did not do it at that meeting because they do it every other year in Whitewater, but this was not the year to do it.
Oh, I was just adding the word
be.
in the
Oh,
sentence.
yeah.
I-
There
That's
will
just
be
my
training.
mistake. Thank you, Michelle.
It's just simple.
To be
Me
or
bad.
not to be?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, just a simple grammar.
Okay, gotcha.
And then, I don't know, my recollection in the park committee report, when we mentioned Ken Zeff had volunteered to work on the park committee, I thought Chairman Kwiatkowski had approved that. Informally, but as part of the discussion.
Okay. Yes, that's stating a fact, he did volunteer. Okay, anything else?
So am I changing something there?
No.
No.
I thought it was stated.
That he hasn't volunteered to work on the park committee.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Then on page 4, in the unfinished business, bullet 2, I guess I would just add the word template after request for proposal,
Yeah, that would make sense.
because it's not the actual proposal.
Right, to put on there. Yes, that would be correct.
In new business, the third bullet, I don't know, is it East Troy Electric Railroad? Is it
No, it's just
ETRR? It's
Yeah,
the
it's the
museum,
East
East Troy
Troy
Railroad
their
Museum.
museum, the actual cars themselves, I believe, or the function that they perform is the electric railroad, but their official name is the museum.
that would be ETRM.
East Troy Railroad Museum, RM. Where was it, I didn't see that.
I'm just looking at
Under
it.
new business.
Oh, okay, East Troy
I put a question mark.
Railroad Museum.
Since Jean works for them, I think she would know best.
Yeah, actually, I have it, you know.
It goes by just East Troy Railroad.
Yeah,
But
that-
I can change it to whatever you want.
I saw, okay.
Yeah, I can change it to whatever you want.
Nope, I was just asking.
Yeah, under, I got an email from Ward Komorowski, the president, and he lists his title at the East Troy Railroad Museum. Official word,
And I think it might be better too if I spell it out.
maybe, yeah.
And in the attorney's report, the first bullet, motion passed unanimously, instead of motion by unanimously.
Gotcha.
That's all I had.
All right, Barb, anything?
No, I haven't.
Bill?
Motion to approve.
Second,
We have a motion and a
As
second.
amended.
as amended.
As amended. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
I,
Opposed? None. Carried. Okay, then we have the Communications Committee, January 16th.
I would make a motion to approve the communications committee meeting minutes from January 16th as presented.
Second,
second,
or second
Couple of
discussion.
questions. Michelle, are you the author, are you the recorder?
Yes,
So you're submitting these?
yes.
Could you make that note? Because I'm never quite sure who's doing the minutes. And I think that's pretty standard, Jean, Kim, okay.
Sure.
Attendance, roll call versus people who attended. So members will be part of a roll call, and I'm never quite sure,
Which everybody's there.
I think that's, again, standard. So were there
That's
two
why
meetings in
there's-
January or one?
There was one, because of the holiday.
My only comment is, the time that the meeting was adjourned.
Oh,
Yeah.
you know how official we had to be.
You know when it was? Started at 6:30, hour meeting?
I think it was,
hold on.
Well, just moving forward.
yeah.
If you got it, we'll.
And then one of the last questions in terms of formatting is, are these minutes? Is this a report? Because it's communication committee as the title.
It says minutes underneath, yep.
Typically, I would only expect to have, I mean, you could have narrative as you do, but the actual actions and votes on action items. Is that part of your committee format?
This, say, isn't a committee that takes action and makes recommendations.
Could be make recommendations here, I guess what Bill's saying is there, do you bring it up as a question and you vote on it and say, this is what we're gonna do?
Because you're advisory to the
Right.
board, so, you know, if you're taking action to make an advisory comment or statement or request or purchase, that should be voted on. I'm just wondering if that's a practice.
It is not today, it
It,
is not.
it should, just because it's a town committee, like who makes the motion, who seconds it.
Just a formality, but, and I know that you just started doing this in the last couple of months.
Yeah, this is, we started this pretty recently. I did see one other thing I did circle on, the second bullet, believe that state statute, and you got STAT,
Oh.
Oh,
state
Yeah.
statute, and that may be a question we ask Jim later. In our discussion. Because there is a difference between minutes and
Oh,
recording. That's gonna be a Jim question.
There are no retention requirements for video.
there are some.
Actually, 19.21 state statute says, that, minutes are tape and the videos can be destroyed 90 days after approved by the town board. The only official minutes are the written.
And those are kept forever.
So then-
And no,
Exactly.
minimum of 7.
The statute actually says, once the minutes for those meetings are approved, 90 days after that.
That's
So
what I
they can be
said.
destroyed.
90 days after the
But there
minutes
are no
approved.
permanent requirements for video as record.
Right.
No.
But that may be something that we want to consider, right? What's the point of having them if we're gonna destroy them after 90 days?
Certainly consider
Right.
that, but I wanted to say, if we were going to put that 90 days in there, we should probably update our, ordinance, because that exception under 1921 isn't
And we
referenced.
have it for recordings
Correct.
currently in our ordinances, but it does not address video.
Right,
Because it's new.
right, right.
Okay, we may firm that up, so we may put that in.
Well,
I think,
I need authorization,
Yes.
it's not noticed, so it's got to wait till next month.
Correct,
yeah, I
that's why
think
I'm
the
ready.
committee will include it on their agenda for the next meeting.
Thank you.
All right,
Video and audio, actually.
welded together in this case, yes.
But
We already have audio.
We used to do an audio recording.
Audio is addressed in our ordinance.
We still do that. Okay, there's no other comments on the communications committee report, motion to approve, no, we already did the motion. We had a discussion on the motion to approve, all in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed? None, opposed, none. Okay. Special town board meeting of January 26th and January 30th, two short meetings. I have no marks on either one of those two.
Nor did I.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have motion and a second to approve the minutes from January 26th and 30th. Discussion, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None, motion carries. I believe that's it.
We have motion, or January 30th, yeah.
You did the
We
just
26th
did
and
them
30th
both
together.
Oh.
Yeah, I did both. They were two short ones. Okay, clerk's treasurer's report. Kim,
Treasurer's report for January 2023. Total receipts were $17,415.74. Transfers for January were $322,028.36. Interest earned for January was $182.85. Balance as of December 31st was $20,164.76. Total funds for January were $359,791.71. Checks paid in January were $345,519.73, leaving a balance of $14,271.98. A couple notes, because of our high tax collection balances in January, the town earned just under $25,000 worth of interest in January, and we're already at 140% of our budget for interest revenue in 1 month. The other items, boat launch today was $550 as of the end of January. And the radon kit promotion that we're participating with at Walworth County Health and Human Services. We've done quite a few radon kits. We've received donations about $25 for the food pantry and some various food items. And then
Are you saying that the $5 for the radon kit goes to that, or people are donating
people,
beyond?
the promotion was $5 for the radon kit, which
Right.
people have paid, and an additional donation to the food pantry.
Okay.
Some people have donated food items, some people have donated cash.
Along with the cost of the radon kit.
Thank you. for
And then the cost of the radon kits, the town gets to keep that portion. And then my new report, the clerk treasurer report, there's quite a bit of items on there. Did anybody on the board have any questions?
I do. First, a comment, the depth and breadth of your duties is staggering and I appreciate everything you do on the, and it'll speak to the, perhaps the difficulty of crafting, job descriptions, but it's a start of quantifying what it is you do, and it's great to see. The Badger books, you ordered them, what would be the first election you would anticipate?
We actually received them today. Jean, myself, and Judy Talbert, who's one of my chief election inspectors, we attended training for the Badger books at the beginning of this month, but because of the tightline of our deadline of just receiving them today, we will not be using them in February, but we will definitely be using them in April. My goal is to have them set up so that on February 21st, at the spring primary, they are available for residents and voters to see and to look at, and for the poll workers that are working that day to kind of get a feel from them, because we can put on practice data that they can play around in.
Great. Thank you.
Cool.
Thanks. Those were exactly my comments, thank you, this is very helpful. So this is great to see every month, and it's very helpful, and yeah, the Badger books were something that I was excited about and interested in.
Okay,
I'll make a motion that we approve the, January treasurer's report and her documentation as presented.
motion to approve those two reports, you have a second?
Second?
Michelle, second, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, motion carried. Okay, nothing else from anything?
No.
Okay, report of committees, no report. I had a bunch of meetings, but the first thing I had, several phone discussions with a couple of engineering firms in regards to, funding programs, mostly through the DOT, talking about the recreational trail between East Troy and Quantico, the Beach Road Bridge, which we're gonna have a special meeting on with the Railroad Museum and some DOT representatives on March 4th. And then we also talked about East Shore, the project we tried to get the BIL grant for, down there by Blue Bell's dockside. For sure, the Beach Road one, we have some opportunities there to do some good. Had a Tri-Troy meeting on the 17th of January, and we discussed the trail and the school referendum and other cost-saving things between the three municipalities, and I believe Todd will have a report on one of those new things that we're gonna be trying to cooperate with. Had a Tri-County meeting on the 19th of January, that was Racine, Kenosha, and Walworth County Towns Association. I chaired that meeting, it was pretty well attended, I think we had like 55 people, I think, 50-ish. It's pretty good. Also had a meeting at the village with the DOT and all the players with the rails, the trails, the trail of the Badger, DOT, Village of Quantico. Unfortunately, the railroad wasn't available at that meeting, but sounds like we have good impetus to get that project back, at least back on the rails, so to speak, to see if it's possible. And then the Town Association District meeting in Whitewater on the 4th of February. That was an all-dayer, that was pretty informative. And then on the 9th of February, Todd, Chad Wales, and myself met with contractor Tanis Construction out of Whitewater. They're the ones that just recently completed the new police administration building in Eagle. It's kind of interesting, Eagle is exactly half the size of the town of East Troy. It's 2,050 people, and their building is twice what we're proposing. It's kind of interesting, it shows that we are maintaining our frugal outlook on life. So I had that meeting, and that's where we really got some good information on the post-frame construction that we may be looking at for the building here. So that was my meetings. Any questions on my meetings?
Joe, did you say that March 3rd was that?
March 4th,
At what time?
the Saturday, 10 a.m. here. And
Open or?
it'll have to be posted as a open meeting, because not only will our majority of our board be there, but also the Railroad Museum's executive board will be there, and then some engineers and DOT folks. So we hope to get a plan on how we can save that bridge from becoming an issue for access, basically, to the south half of the county from here.
Will the DOT be able to guide us on funding?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that was a holdup on getting the date firmed up, because the person I contacted, they had contacted him after the meeting at the village, or whatever, but then I got a hold of the number of who it was. I sent them an email, that was the first day they were starting a 2-week vacation. So it automatically went to their supervisor, and I gave it to him, and he didn't respond through last Friday, so I resent it to everybody this morning, and they got back to me and said, I was a little worried that they wouldn't be able to show up on a Saturday, because there was a time when they would not do that, and they are gonna do that, so that's a good thing. Anything else? Okay. All right, Department of Public Works. Todd?
You guys all received my little report. Just really a couple things to bring up on that. We share right now a bucket truck with the village and town of Troy. And now we're looking to do another joint purchase of a crack filling machine. I kind of stated a little bit in my report. They don't get them used that often from this place that we've been renting from for years. And this actually came in as a 2015 model, because they rent these things all over the United States. This one's still in pretty good shape. Myself and Jamie from the town of Troy went and looked at it, and got all the maintenance records, and looked at how many hours and everything that were on it. Actually, pretty good deal at $26,500. They're almost $100,000 brand new. But we would have to purchase a third of it. The village approved purchasing their third last week, Monday or Tuesday. I got an email from Jason, and I think Town of Troy met last night, and I haven't heard anything from them. So what I was looking for was approval for our third of the purchase of that would be $8,833.34.
How much does it cost when you rent this thing?
To rent it, it is $2,500 a week. This would give us because they rent them all over the United States, we usually end up getting it sometime in April, May. So, and then you got a lot of weather issues, timing. This would give us a lot more flexibility between the three, because usually they bring one down and kind of help service all of our county, Sugar Creek, Lafayette, and it just kind of bounces there, and you just get in line, and when you get it, you get it. It would give us to be a lot more flexible. We probably actually do more of our own crack filling, a lot better for the road projects, because you're not stuck to just that week's time frame.
So do you normally do about a week and a half or 2 weeks a year, roughly average?
Usually about at one week, yeah.
So we'd be looking at 3 years, this would be 3-4 years, it would be paid off, and then you'd be saving after that.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we, like I said, we'd actually probably do more of it to help maintain some of our roads, because you're not just limited to, you got to get this much done in a week's time.
And how
So-
quickly would you get that?
What's that?
How quickly would you someone take possession of it?
It probably wouldn't be till May or June,
Oh.
because then once they get the approval for us to buy it, they're gonna go through the whole machine, make sure everything's right, everything works,
Services,
and service it.
yeah. I just noticed on this quote that, for the,
For Farner,
yeah,
Yeah.
include some crack filling,
Yeah,
they
it's-
hold off.
Yep,
and-
that was another one. That project, being the boat launch parking lot, to try and close that down at any point in the summertime
Mhm,
is gonna make a lot of people very upset,
Right.
especially once fishing opens. These guys would be in and out of there in a day. And the size of some of the cracks in there, They actually have a granule material that would go in with it. When we do the crack filling on the roads, it's just like liquid rubber. So they would add material to it, so you don't have as much.
In the future, if we maintain, if we are able to do it more frequently,
Yep.
we'd be able to?
Yeah, we did a crack filling on that boat launch 15 years ago. It's been a long time.
I think it was once since it was built, and it's 30
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
Any downside in terms of sharing or scheduling?
Not really, I mean, we work very, very well, even with maintenance issues that we've had, like with the bucket truck, on sharing it if something had broke down. Depends upon actually what it is when you're using it, because if it's just a normal maintenance item, say if the town of Troy's using it, they'll pay for it, if we're using it, we'll pay for it.
Where will it be housed?
It would be held at the town of Troy, they have room in their old party barn.
How do you decide priority of roads that need crack filling?
We do that on our Phaser rating,
Okay,
on how we rate our roads every year.
$100,000 new, $8,000 our share of the purchase.
Almost 9, yeah.
Yeah.
it's a deal.
Anytime you can, save money, even if it's a couple years down the road.
Yeah.
you gotta look at it.
Yeah,
Like I said, and it gives us a lot more flexibility of when we can use it.
and I like how all of the Troy Village town are working together. I think that speaks highly to our neighborly, relationship.
Yeah, Jamie from the town of Troy spearheaded this one and brought it
Okay.
to our attention.
Thank
What
you,
about the
Jamie.
equipment review? Is there anything that might cause you concern that's major?
When we went and looked at it, they have done some of the major replacements already, just because at so many hours when it was rented out, they do it automatically. Like the burners for heating everything up, and the igniters, they've done majority of the costly stuff already for renting it out.
And you'll be able to get access to the material.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're right in Milwaukee. They said if you ever had any problems, they got mechanics there, because they have so many of these things that they rent out. And,
The river fill or something.
yeah,
Is local as well.
yeah, and they actually,
When you rent it, you have to get it yourself too?
yep, yeah, so it's fine with us back and forth. 3 years ago, they actually, because we get it from Sherwin Industry, they opened up a satellite station down in Waterford now.
It's close.
Yeah, for getting material.
All right,
I can't see a negative side to doing this, so I commend all of you for putting the program together and trying to make this work.
Yeah, and the village is going to go over the agreement, because it's just gonna be similar to like the one we have with our bucket truck, and
Okay,
changing some wording in it pretty much, and their attorney's gonna go over that pretty good.
okay, motion.
I make a motion that we approve the purchase of the used crack filling machine as a joint venture with the village of East Troy and the town of Troy for a total of $26,500 divided by 3.
Before there's any motions on that Farner contract,
We're doing the
Can we
crack
finish
filling
this
back
one
right
first?
okay.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and second, about the purchase of the crack filling machine. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, motion carries.
If I could make a comment on your January DPW report, again, the depth and breadth of the activities by your department are outstanding. One comment though, number 8, countless hours, countless hours of looking up right of ways and over. I'm sure we could define it, but the point here is you're making, and it's excellent, is that citizen came to us, made suggestions, made accusations, made recommendations, and I think this board has been extremely responsive to that individual and spent the time to do this right.
Yes, and it's not just myself, Joe, Kim, Gene, Jim, I mean, it wasn't just me, it's
Yes, I understand.
everybody.
Well, and I like how you went to the DOT for their expert opinion as well.
Yeah, I mean, we get a sheet from them every year on what equipment costs, and that's what we can go, that's all I can go off of, is what they recommend.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, and Jim, you got a comment before we talk about the prior proposal?
Yes, even though it doesn't require public bidding, because it's under 25, because it's over 5, it does require a class 1 publication, at least 1 week before the contract is approved.
Because it's over 5,000. When did we post this? That,
We haven't
On
done anything
Thursday.
yet, we could,
Yeah,
whenever, if I can say, yeah, okay, we can post it,
yeah, we can put a class one notice in.
okay.
and that has to be done before we approve it?
1 week before.
Okay.
Well, she can
I
put
mean,
it in and then there's a meeting on 3/4, you can approve it.
We could, or we could approve it subject to that, or we could put it on,
You can't approve it subject to, I don't think.
what's that?
You can put
I
it
don't think you can approve it subject to.
Okay, well then we can either, publish it before
our
March.
March meeting.
our March meeting, you know? But is there any difference if we did this in March either, or not really?
It's just trying to,
Schedule it.
with the salesman from there, I told him, I said, we wanna try and be the first one on the list because of the location of it.
Okay, all right, I don't think that one item will interfere with that meeting with the other board there, we just said, hey, we noticed this, and we have one action item as a town of East Troy board before we go into the meeting about the Beach Road Bridge, we can do that.
Yeah.
Okay,
And on that, it's just going to be for the crack line. I just, Kevin gave me an estimate for the striping that we have to do. I got a couple other companies interested in, for that
Bidding.
also.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, so it's just be that. Okay, and
And then we had I had heard through the grapevine some issues on one day, on a Friday, that we went out and kind of pre-treated some roads after a Thursday night that we had some freezing rain and a little bit of snow. And a normal day, I guess you call it observing what's happening on the town roads, we had found quite a few icy spots, shaded spots. So we went out and pre-treated. Not an uncommon practice. We turn our sanders, usually the DOT recommends between 400 and 600 pounds per mile, lane mile. For pre-treating, we were down to 200 pounds a lane mile. Turned our actual spinners that spread it off down to 0, and every time you make a corner, it just rolls off the spinner. So yes, it looks like a ton laying there instead of being broadcast, it's just laying there. Which actually helps, because then the traffic disperses it. It doesn't get blown off the road as easy as it is when it's in a finer spot. And it also helped when we received the snow and freezing rain on Saturday night. A lot of it was still in place. It just happened to be the following week was Wisconsin Saltwise Week, so we had some complaints on that we were using up our allotment of salt for the year on dry roads. But, like I said, it's not on a compass, thing for pre-treating roads before a storm. Yes, we do use brine when we have a chance. That morning there was ice on the roads in spots, so instead of just doing spots, we did as much as we could, like a little preventive measure.
Makes sense, you're never gonna please everyone, right?
No, but it was brought up. We all attended a saltwise training last year, so we're all well aware of what we need to do with the salt. And we did not use by any means our allotted salt for the year.
Besides, you're drawing our attention to number 9 on your list.
Yes.
And I'll draw your attention to number 1, 2, and 3, and the crummy, salt, icy, sloppy winter we had, and the multiple times you've been out there protecting the residents and keeping our roadways safe. We'll balance 1, 2, and 3 against 9 any day.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm surprised, 12 is, for 1 month, is that unusual for January? After, because
But
we thought we
there was no
calculated
real-
19 per year.
We had the one big snow at the end of the month, that was it, other than that was, but you still gotta do the same process, whether there's an inch or 10 inches. Just 10 inches, we went out twice that day. Normally, a little 1 inch is one time around, and so when we get after this year, I'll review all of the amount of salt and the times that we went out. You'll see the time we had the 10 inches, we went out twice, we used, I think it was 40 tons of salt, something like that. We go out once, it's half of that.
And you also had on here the parking fee for the
You had
new
two
lot
others.
spot.
Was, with the addition now of adding a couple parking spots in the boat launch parking lot is trying to address some kind of fee for that, I don't know.
Isn't that for the bikes?
No, it's actually gonna be for vehicle parking without trailers that,
Oh, okay.
say, a family's going out, they can't fit everybody in one vehicle.
Right.
We had decided last fall that we were gonna approach this, and I think without having cost a ton of money, having to put a separate parking lot in, there's enough room for, I think, 11 or 12 additional parking spots for
Just
vehicles.
cars,
Yep. And it would just be addressing some kind of fee, and it's gonna be a first come, first served, and
Well, the fee, first of all, it's now established by an ordinance on what we charge,
Mhm.
okay? The guidance in the DNR for what you're just discussing here doesn't exist as far as I know. It's always with a car and trailer, but it would have to have an ordinance change if we're gonna charge a fee, correct, Jim?
It would, and I would still contact the DNR
To
and
make
just,
sure.
Yeah.
right.
so I wanna get this in the works before the summer fishing season starts. Cause there's signage that's gonna have to get made, and
What's the fee now?
there is none for parking a vehicle, cause
For the others, for the car.
it varies, I think it's as cheap as
$11,
11 and it's.
13, and then
16.
16.
It depends on the length of the boat.
Okay.
And then kayakers are $8,
Yeah.
but there's many times that kayakers come and they've just put them in the back end of their pickup, or they're on a thing, so they don't have a trailer. That's why this will then allow a boat trailer to be parked somewhere, and they can park in one of these slots, or like Todd said, guests of people. But there is no fee for that right now.
Yeah, cause right now there is no,
There is no parking
Additional
for those
parking.
people.
unless during the week they can park out on St. Peter's Road, but Saturday, Sunday and holidays they cannot. So it's just it's something that's gonna have to go forward now that that was approved to put additional parking spots in.
So who's gonna follow up with the DNR?
I can do that. Yeah.
Ask Joe if they have any similar situations.
Right, but I'm sure they do, but the thing is, I never seen it where they had it written. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist in their own plan somewhere, so
Yeah.
I'll get a hold of that guy. I had discussed an issue with them over the years, and you get the guy at the desk, you got an answer right away, it's just getting them, so I will follow up.
So add that again to next month's agenda.
That would be next month, yes. Okay, and then the last one we have is, kind of similar, but discussion ordinance change for trailers left at the launch with no vehicle attached. I didn't know that was happening.
It's been done
rare.
the 4th of July.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen where they come and they park the trailers in the morning and then they take off, cause they're not ready to go out till like 11
Oh,
or
I see.
something like that.
So the trailer and the boat are sitting in the parking lot.
Yeah,
Oh. Well, to pay the fee, I don't think you can really do much.
I didn't make the complaint or whatever, I just
Yeah, I
know that
don't-
it's happened.
Yeah. It was brought to my attention, and
Yeah.
I think a couple of the officers are the ones that actually noticed it,
Okay.
going, hey, what's with this? So,
Yeah.
So they're saving their spot?
Yeah,
Exactly.
basically. They're getting there in the morning, paying their fee and parking their vehicle or their trailer
Yeah.
and boat, and then they come back later, we hook up, launch it.
Yeah.
And
I think once they pay the fee to launch, we can't dictate when they launch.
I think so.
24 hours.
Cause there is
Yeah,
a time
there is
frame
a time.
on, yep, there is a
Five
time
to-
frame on the thing that says
24
that they
hours.
have, yep.
The time, yeah.
And then they can't be there in the middle of the night and stuff like that.
What is it, 5 AM, 10 PM, or 5?
Yeah, 5 to
5 to 11.
11 or 5, yeah.
With no launching between 11 and 5.
Right.
Yeah,
You can take out, you just can't launch.
yeah,
Oh, okay, you're right.
So,
yeah. So
Okay.
they could be getting there at 2 in the morning, grabbing a spot and going home and then coming back.
I don't think they do much with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Good, that's for you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, police report, Chief Brackey for a report and then a peer permit.
Start over in the discussion that you were just talking about with the boat launch. Mr. Mills would probably be the best one. My guess is the DNR is gonna have buck kiss for you, and my suggestion would be change your ordinance so that either launching a kayak or / parking a car is $8. Super simple fix. But I don't think the DNR is gonna tell you anything other than, just like going to a state park, you pay the fee to park and walk around Devil's Lake, or you pay to park and launch your kayak. So I don't know how much of an answer you're gonna really get, but that would be my suggestion, is the ordinance change to park the car / launching a kayak. Y'all should have a summary report from January of 2023. Total calls that we went to was 626, 178 extra patrols. We did 142 house checks and 123 traffic stops. Compared to this month last year, there was a lot more calls for service, and I didn't drill down as to find out why, other than the fact the house check numbers appeared to be off the charts, like near 500 house checks. I don't know how that's possible, because I think right now in the books we have 8 house checks, so I don't know how many times houses were being checked, like, are we checking a house
Per
3
shift.
times per shift or what? But that's a inordinate number of house checks in 1 month. But the number that did please me is, last year there was under 100 traffic stops in the month of January, and now we're at 123. So, to me, that was a change in the positive, from last year. And then the last thing, was the Russell, Pier. Looking at Walworth County's Open View, which, lays out the, piers, and shadows them in, and then if you zoom in, you can see the existing pier. My only question is the address that they have on the pier permit does not match the county's One View. So I have a question there, do they own 2 parcels, because they are parceled separately? And I haven't talked to anybody about that, but I don't see a problem finding the layout with that additional sailboat, in looking at it. Especially now that when you open up that Walworth County One View, where they're adding that 8-foot section for the sailboat, should not be an issue with the lagoon and everything. But like I said, the one question is the address on the permit and the address where the pier is attached are 2 different in the Walworth County Surveyor's map.
Okay, and Mr. Russell is here, correct? And the One View mapping system in his neck of the woods is all mixed up.
Okay,
It's totally mixed up. Matter of fact, it's like you're in your neighbor's house and vice versa and all that.
It's like 30 or 40 feet off, yeah.
Right.
so,
But he did have a separate survey done before he did any of this stuff too, so we do know that the frontage is you know, like 96 feet.
And like I said, when I'm looking at it in real time, I don't see an issue. It doesn't block the lagoon, and that, so.
Okay. All right, I'll give my view on this, and then we have to have Jim pipe in, and then if there's any questions, you know, the applicant is here. First of all, this pier is in that Lake Beulah sensitive area number 4, that's why the DNR had to review this, and they said it was exempt from chapter 30 permit, okay? My first question on that was, when you sent that application in at that time, you had showed 2 boats, or did you show 3 boats when you submitted that to the DNR?
It was exactly this.
This one right here. Okay, so DNR did say, we're good. Number 2, like I said, they did say that, it's okay. Number 3, the only reason why you had to get a new permit is you enlarged it from what was there when, you know, actually when the 2012 date came around, plus whenever you brought it. So that's why we had to go to a new one, and why he had to maintain 12 feet off the riparian line, where if he was just reconfiguring the area of this pier into a new location, he could go right up to that riparian line, but this is considered a new pier, so, and that fits that, the width fits, the length fits, the landings fit, all that's good, including that offset, except for the riparian line. But my review, when I looked at this, I was looking at the pier plan and the ordinance where it talks about the number of moorings, and there's a little bit of an issue here, because the DNR talks about moorings, they're saying that equals a slip, and a slip equals a boat. So in a property with, it's 96 feet, you're allowed 2 moorings, or 2 boats for the first 50 feet, and you don't reach the 3rd vessel until you have a full additional 50 feet, you know, like 4 feet short or whatever, it's 96 feet along the shoreline. And remember, we had this whole issue a couple of years back, and John, remember that too, on his, where he had a sinuous shoreline that came out to 249 feet, he was allowed 5 there, even though 1 more foot would allow the 6th one. So that's my question on here right now, and again, because I'm looking at the pier planner versus our ordinance, and do you see an issue here, Jim, with the number of moorings on this application?
Yes, if you short of the footage amount, you'd have to have a variance type request,
All right,
and then a hearing, see if anyone objects.
all right. All
And
right.
the DNR wouldn't have noted that because they had 3 marked.
Well, again, chapter 30, that, we're separate in them. Our own ordinance says, because it's in that sensitive zone, that's why the DNR had to pipe in. We could not act or make a decision until we got their, view on it, and they said it's exempt from chapter 30. But our ordinance says, you know, that should be two vessels there. As a matter of fact, the very first time that this came to us, it was 2 boats you had showed on there, on the pier. I mean, I don't necessarily have an issue with this, other than I wanna make sure that if indeed I'm reading this the same way you are.
I don't have an issue with it either, but we have to be, exactly.
So, okay, you agree then that the moorings and the definition of moorings, pier, equals boats, and I'll read it directly from the pier plan of DNR. Again, if this pier that you have right here on this map was existing, April of 2012, it would have been grandfathered, okay, regardless of the size, as long as it didn't interfere with your neighbor's riparian zone. But it does say, the number of boat slips, the total of all watercraft docked at the pier or wharf, including boats and a boat lift or hoist, is limited to 2 boat slips for the first 50 feet of the riparian owner's shoreline frontage, and no more than 1 boat slip for each additional full 50 feet of shoreline. Okay? In addition, you could have 2 more other jet skis there. So you could have 2 boats and 2 jet skis, but by definition and by ordinance, you can't have 3 boats. So I believe you're right, this would have to be noticed for, if you wanna ask for a variance for it, the way that's listed right here, that would then have to come to the board in March as a public hearing for a decision by the town board if that variance should be be granted.
So is the variance through this meeting, or is it through the planning commission?
No, here. The ordinance basically gives the town board that authority, I guess, to deal with, variance type issues. And
Can we turn it into a variance application
Yes.
right now?
Well, it's not noticed that way, so no, we couldn't. But the ice is gonna be there for a little while, so that's, I guess, so based on that, the application as submitted should be denied with the advice to bring it back next month as a variance request with the same information called a variance request.
So
So moved. All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Barb, second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries, so we'll deny it as it's written here due to, the ordinance. We're happy, but, got it?
And you'll have to send notice to the neighbors.
Yes. You got Miller's and, Hoskins, right? Just the same two?
So you want the neighbors on just both sides, is that?
Yes.
Who sends that notice?
I believe it has to, I checked the ordinance to see who all gets
And who? has
personal
to-
notice of that.
Who's
Who has
responsible
to
for
give-
confirming that's done,
Yeah.
or that it's done?
I would say the town would, once it's scheduled as a variance hearing.
Yes, I'm looking here right now.
It's further than just.
It might be further. Okay, we'll give notice based on what the ordinance requires, but for sure it's gotta be, you know, the neighbors, but the thing is, the mapping does show that it's well clear of the preparing line, so we won't have that issue to argue about, there isn't no issue there. Right, so, all right, anything else, Chief?
Yeah, one thing, the police building I know is further down, and I'm jumping ahead. Don't know if I'm gonna get called or asked for an opinion, but, it would be my suggestion to the board, moving forward, that we look for, when you set up bids for a design build, construction company, and not, somebody that's going to, require an architect that's gonna cost us $15,000 to $30,000. When you go with a design build, you're gonna save that money that we can put back into the building and not spend it. Spending that kind of money for an architect to give us that when a design builder can do it, I think
So
is
there's still gonna be a charge in there, but you're saying it's probably more cost effective.
way more
We
cost effective.
verify that the Eagle building, was that design build or was that an architect bid build?
Design
It was design build,
Yeah,
okay.
so, that was my only suggestion, like I said, I saw it on the agenda, and I'm not named in it, so I wanted to speak while I could.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. Okay, East Troy Area Emergency Services District report.
I did file a report. I would like to add to bullet point number 4, which was the Village of East Troy's Planning Commission approved the placement of Walworth County's proposed new communications tower. The issue had to be approved by the village board. That was approved on January 16, 2023 for the Highway 20 placement,
One.
120. So that's the only addition to my report. Are there any questions?
Any concerns about the timeliness in the new contract and language? Is this pretty standard or running out of
I
time?
met last week, the 7th, with the town of Troy and the town of Lafayette. It is now, in the hands, the district lawyer, Attorney Schulte, did turn around the language. I forwarded that to the, town of Troy, who will have a meeting in March to discuss it. I will meet, on Wednesday night with the town of Lafayette and Chief DeGaro to discuss the new language and possibly approve the town of Lafayette's, participation. Mhm.
Any other questions? Okay, move on, Park Committee report.
Nothing specific to the park committee, but, I think it will come up further in some of our discussions from the communications committee and maybe, Bill's new business regarding, mission and vision.
Booth Lake Memorial Park report, Supervisor Wales is not here, but Kim, could you add anything?
I would like to mention that for this Wednesday, which is the 15th, is the Booth Lake Lottery for the upper and lower and the new open air park pavilions. That starts at 6 o'clock and it is being held at the Town of Troy Town Hall.
It'll be a quiet one this year, you think?
Last year we had a huge crowd, so.
Okay, Lakeview Management District report, Craig is not here, Craig Thomas, and he did not send a report, so no report. Recycling Committee, Mr. Murphy.
Yes, recycling committee report, there really isn't anything to report yet, so, nothing to report tonight.
Okay, anything in the library?
Library, nothing to report again, the library scheduled meeting will be tomorrow night, 13th February, 4 p.m. And then
Today's-
the next library
today's
meeting.
Tomorrow.
You mean
14th.
14th.
I'm sorry, 14th, okay, that's it.
That's it. Okay, Communications Committee report, Michelle?
So I submitted my report. Again, thank yous, to Bill for, pointing out the self-awareness and Jen for putting together the posts and the content. Again, thanks to Jen and Todd, for getting the videos up and running. I think the committee, however, in general, since the ad hoc committee, the original expectation and discussion was that the videos in the ad hoc committee report was that it would probably be YouTube or Zoom. But we decided against Zoom because we're not doing interactive. When we went to the village board on June 14th of this year, and Jen joined us, I think YouTube was the recommended path there. It can be live, and it can be included like on the webpage as a link, right along with the minutes and the agenda. In fact, we already have that built in our website today. It shows a place where you can add audio and video in all of the meetings today, so that's nicely set up already. Again,
Where is this on the report? On your updates?
I guess it's a report and obviously responding to the activities that have happened since the report was submitted.
But this is the agenda item is the communication committee report, right?
Yes, Mr. Wooker, and we also had activity since the report was submitted.
I do think in the middle of the first paragraph
We
leads to
definitely
that
talked
discussion.
about, yeah, the committee had originally, that is in the report, the committee had originally envisioned a YouTube page to store all of the videos.
Okay, we are aware that Jen's having trouble with storage streaming capacity on the website, which is why she and Town Web went to Facebook Live option. So that's a discussion I think that has to occur with Jen in the meetings. You gotta get her in the meeting with your folks and ferret that out. I was personally under the impression that this was all done, resolved, and good. I mean, I've been going online and looking at it. It's very easy to get to and view and whatever. I didn't know there was an issue. But I will address that when we get to the next part here. Is there anything else on your?
Yeah, I guess, I
Okay,
think this was the intent all along, and you can see, that we looked at the town web contract and saw that there was an option, to embed videos, and we thought maybe that was one of the limitations that Jen was seeing. And that was why she went to, Facebook Live, and in fact, in Jen's memo, when she said that she, when she switched to Facebook Live, it cost an extra $118 a year. Actually, the committee wasn't aware that that change was made at all. So, yeah, it's just
Okay,
I think it's just
Does the
misunderstanding.
town already vote yes or no to a YouTube option?
we never brought it up that way. What it was is we said, okay, one of the first functions, and it's accomplished, was the live streaming, okay? And that was the whole thing, is that it had to be where a person that's not here could be just like the folks sitting here, they could actually witness the meeting live, and it could never be edited or anything, it's right there. And if they can't make the meeting, to be able to come back the next day, the next week, the next month, and view the meeting, as if they were here. And again, the driving factor in that, believe it or not, was still COVID, because there was a time when people didn't wanna be here, or couldn't be here, all right? So the live streaming portion was always the key driver of the whole thing. And if it can be accomplished in a different format, whatever, that's something I think should be worked out with the webmasters and your committee, because like I said, I thought this was a settled issue, and it was working fine, and it's good, and I'm not sure what the issue is beyond that.
So, yeah, so I think, like I said, the committee had been talking about YouTube from the beginning. We kind of thought that Facebook was a quick fix, and like we said, we thought it was due to some, memory issues. The live feed can be done either way, like we said, YouTube or Facebook Live, and YouTube, doesn't require a membership either. And so, yeah, we weren't aware of the changes that were made to the contract. So, yeah, it's
They
not a
were
performance issue, it's not at all.
The Facebook was included in the original invoice that was received and paid by the town.
True.
Well, then it must have, yeah, so there was an option for embedded live that we did not check on the original contract. And so then Jen referenced $118 a year, that,
Which has already been paid for the next 3 years.
which wasn't, communicated back to the committee.
It was in the
It
original
wasn't.
invoice.
It wasn't on the contract that Joe signed. At least the embedded option, that actually said $149.
One of the things that Facebook does that YouTube doesn't is it provides closed captioning, which makes us ADA sensitive to people who aren't hearing or have difficulty hearing. So I would like to make sure that people know that that's another benefit to Facebook Live.
Okay.
That's a nice option, and we could look into whether or not YouTube has that. No,
Can YouTube be edited
no.
if
we
you're
can do-
live streaming?
We can do it, actually on the village, and that's who we met with originally to look at the equipment. They have a nice spot on their website that says, you can go here to see the live meetings via YouTube, and they explain right there may be up to a 20-second lag, but it is a live YouTube
Right.
meeting. And then, like we said, then you can include the link in our format that's already there. So, like today, when you go to the website, until today, when the Facebook logo was added, when you go to the meetings and agenda, you don't.
That was on a device,
mobile.
not on, yeah, on a
That-
mobile
that-
device,
that-
not on a tablet or a
It was
laptop.
there on the on the main.
So, okay, yep,
Mhm.
it wasn't on all, so,
Distinct difference.
very distinct. I think a lot of people use their mobile devices, right?
And many websites don't have good interface with it, so
And
there's
that was
things
one of,
yeah.
that was one of the things that we made sure Town Web
New
had,
Mhm.
where it adjusts if you're on a laptop or a mobile device. And Jen and I worked through a lot of that in the beginning, when the website was set up, and seeing the differences when you view it on a desktop, when you were setting it up, and when I was viewing it on a phone.
And I
And
think
it's
that's
still
probably
an
where the
ongoing
disconnect
issue.
was.
Like
is
right now, when they
you-
just added that, the video isn't coming up on the mobile device because they added the one thing and then it upset the Apple Cart. So it's going to be again circling back with Town Web to find out what exactly they did wrong.
So, yeah, so, I mean,
Yeah,
And if there are, you know, if you don't hear from me after a meeting, cause sometimes I get busy and have other things happening with my job or family as well, I would certainly invite you to reach out to me if you have questions. I would think it's a two-way street. I do my best to update you and apologize, and, so I just think that would be a good way to resolve it. The other thing in the committee reports,
Just as a point of order, this is, you're giving us the meeting. If the minutes reflected actions taken and votes that substantiate the recommendations, what we've been talking about, I don't know what we're talking about, quite frankly, at this point. So the minutes.
Mr. Booker, the minutes were for the January meeting, and we have
Well,
had a
this is
February
a
meeting.
communication update.
Correct, it
for
is
the
not
February
minutes,
6th
it is
meeting,
my
right?
report, kind of similar to a summary report from anyone
So
else.
this is not minutes.
It does not say minutes, it's my report as the communications committee representative. There's not minutes from February, those have not been completed yet, we just had the meeting last week.
So I think
So this is.
on
an
a
update.
future agenda for the town board, it's just going to be a motion to move to YouTube for live stream versus Facebook Live, or
Okay.
something along that,
If that's what's
Okay.
decided.
if that's what the committee
Good,
Mhm.
committee
wants to do.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, there's one other thing. to say
Yep,
here?
we also talked about, the mission and vision and logo. Some great research was done, by the Joneses, looking at the towns in Wisconsin that are similar to our size, and finding, there really weren't the missions and visions posted on those web pages either. It was more a little bit maybe about the town or the history of the town or some of the features that they may have. The supervisor Church had some research, where there were some universities that did some consulting and really talked about, a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And the committee agreed that the board really needs to look at those areas in order to determine like a long-term plan. And maybe it won't be a mission or vision, but it's kind of a plan or a strategy. You know, do we wanna develop parks and have that be a focus area? We talked previously in other years about agriculture and recreation. But how do we wanna present those things? Do we wanna consider further development in the area? Can we share some of those things? So really, something that the board needs to consider.
Is that part of the comprehensive plan?
That,
It does have all that in there, which you just mentioned, yes.
Many of those categories are.
Every 10 years it's revised or updated. It's called the 2035 plan, it was done in 2010 and updated in 2020, and we have another update coming in 2030. But many of those things you mentioned, like, you know, what is important about the town, what is meant to be saved, you know, that's all in there, that's all in there. You know.
and there's a lot, Mary Jo found, like, she went through all of the ownership of land in the town. And it, you know, we had questions about, you know, the DNR owns this, is it usable? You know, Barb said there's like 10 deeds on some of the, with deed restrictions on some of the land, but are those things that we wanna focus on? You know, do we wanna build parks? Do we, you know, those kind of things, and I don't know that if the long-term plan every 10 years is frequent enough for us to be able, or it wasn't really shared well on the website. We can certainly, we would be happy to understand that, but it really has to be kind of started by the board.
All right, makes sense.
So my concern, and Ms. Shaw, you just summarized it in the last sentence there, I don't believe the board has ever asked the communication committee to do this work. You and I were both on the ad hoc committee, and much to your credit and what the ad hoc committee put in place back in 2021, you've done a great job with website content, meeting accessibility, technology improvements, newsletters, social media staff, fantastic. When we were on the ad hoc committee, which was disbanded in September of 2021, that committee specifically said, we don't think we should be doing vision, mission, this is not our, this branding, this is not what we
Yep.
should be doing. I'm sure you recall that.
Yep.
And we said, that is something the board should be doing. I do not recall since September 2021 to now, the board ever saying to any person, group, commission, please work on our vision, mission, strategic plan, or any other such thing. So while I appreciate what you've done, and you certainly have done work, Jones's in particular, I don't think it ought to go forward until the board authorizes it to move forward.
And I think similar to the ad hoc committee that made recommendations to the board, that was what was previously mentioned at other monthly meetings, that the communications committee would look to consultants to try and narrow it down for the board to
Right.
then move forward.
And I think that's where you and I are in agreement, because we've shared emails saying what consultants have you contacted, and I think that'll come up a little later at this meeting. But for the time being, I do clearly know, because I have the minutes from the July 13th, 2021 meeting where the ad hoc committee said the board should do this. We shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, again, it was to narrow down the choices for the board and set the direction.
Well, the board, again, the board did not even ask for that qualifying or preemptory work to be done. I think the board has to deliberate what we want to do and maybe make a decision tonight without Chad being present, but I think that's a board decision.
All right, are you done with your report? Okay, this is actually a good segue into the next item on the agenda. I put this one on there, it's called Discussion Regarding Community Interface with Webmasters. I had a discussion with Jen, which really leads to a lot of what we already discussed about the YouTube versus Facebook on the live streaming. That was one issue, but there was some other issues, and I told Jen, I said, you don't work for me, you work for the board as a whole, you work for the judge, okay, you work for Kim, okay? And I feel a lot better if you have concerns, and they seem to be legitimate concerns, to create a memo and send it to the board, and we'll put it on the agenda, because where this is supposed to happen, this discussion, which we already are halfway through, is a discussion at the board level. I can't unilaterally just say, just go ahead and do this or do that. I'm not doing it. We don't do that with anybody else, and we're not gonna do it here.
Joe,
So-
can I interject?
Sure.
If this goes into job duties and performance and expectations, I think that's a personnel matter
I agree.
that needs to be held at a separate closed session meeting.
I agree. So, the item is discussion regarding committee interface with webmasters. Of course, the webmasters are the three ladies right in front here, okay? They are the webmasters as dictated by the board, okay? And I'm concerned about the communication, how it gets to Jen, because it has to come from you. You're the committee chair and a board member. So if there's gonna be any direction that's gonna go to Jen, it's gotta come from you, okay? We have a discussion on that. That's gotta happen. And then when that item comes there, actually the three webmasters actually look at it and see, well, who's doing it, you know? And it's been going great so far. I don't think there's an issue here, but I wanna make sure that it was known and stated in a public meeting that that's how the communication occurs. And the streaming platform, that, again, you gotta get Jen at a meeting and ferret that out, work through that. Like I said, I didn't think there was an issue. Apparently there is one. I don't think it's a big issue, but this communication committee as a whole is really new. I call these growing pains. We're figuring it out. And all the input you get from the board here and Jen are real things. And, that's really all I have to say about that. I think that should occur, I don't know when your next meeting is. When's it coming
The
up?
27th.
Of this month? Okay. You're available on the 27th?
We have to look at me. I'm not sure.
But that's gonna happen, because that's, and like I said, I think what we have going on here is working great. I really do. The only complaint I had about the entire thing is, I wish we could upgrade our video quality a little bit, it's a little fuzzy. And I don't know if that's something that has to do with a resolution that we can control, or that's just with the equipment we have that it is. But if you do all these meetings, I mean, you can tell who's talking, you can hear everything, you can see it, you know what's going on. In addition, you know, to the meeting minutes, you're covered there, so. That's why I wanted it brought here, it's not one of these things where you can just chit chat over a coffee and fix it. I think we're to a point where let's make sure we get that part done. I agree with Bill, all these things that we wanted to get done, the communication committee, we're almost there, okay? We're almost there, you know? Resolve this last deal, make sure we got a platform we can live going forward, you know? We do think we know how we're gonna do the newsletters now, you know? That's gonna be a pretty straightforward process with the staff mostly, so we're gonna be good there too. So that's why I put it on there, and, most Carrot and Chaz not here, and I don't know how, unless he can review this meeting tape, which he probably will do, to see the minutes. He's on a beach, so better than here.
For his birthday, well deserved.
Yes, so that's all I had on that, that's why, again, I wanted to state why I put it on here and why it's good. If there's any additional comments, any public comments on this, obviously you can do that. Okay, planning commission report, Bill.
There was only one item from our February 1st meeting, if I can get my notes. Bear with me for a second, thank you. So the item for board approval, which was, the item itself was unanimously approved by the planning commission, is what is, we're talking about a certified survey map being vacated and a renewed certified survey map being proposed. So the motion for the property located at 97751 Bauer Roads in East Troy involves three parcel numbers. PA 504900001, PA 504900002, and PA 504900003. These parcels are all owned by.
Excuse me, one note.
Which one
It's,
were they?
the property is not on Bowers Road, it's on Sabota Road.
Yeah.
Bowers Road is the address of the owners
Applicants.
of the road.
Thank you. And so the applicant owns all three of these parcels. All three of these parcels are zoned C2 and they are all greater than 5 acres. What was discovered was they're calling it a clerical error. I'm not a surveyor, but it seems to me like it's a discovery of a boundary spike change whereby on one of the lots, the third lot, they discovered property stakes that caused the property line in the southeast corner to shift. So to shift to the west, approximately 22 feet, over a distance of about 600 feet is the length of the lot. So we have approximately 1/3 of an acre in this very narrow strip of land, which if the property boundaries are correctly drawn with the new information that the surveyor had, would move the boundary 22 feet to the west, and it gives the neighbor a free 1/3 of an acre. And the owners are saying that's fine. We've got to do this correctly. We have to vacate the first certified survey map number 5049 from September 22nd, 2021. They're acknowledging the new, they call it monumentation stakes. They're correcting the error with the vacation of the old certified survey map and with the new certified survey map. They're altering the boundary in this southeast corner of the lot, which is, you can't see it from the road, it's that far back. It's a technicality, but it needs to be done for correctness.
So are they quit claiming this extra third to their neighbors?
The only thing they didn't do was inform the neighbors of, that they're receiving this land.
Well, maybe they don't want it.
But at the meeting, nobody spoke against it. And the neighbors, to the best of our knowledge, were informed, so they don't think they have a problem.
They're just moving the boundary on this CSM exterior to match previously existing monumentation and ownership. So it was an error on their part when they
So
created.
they didn't really own that third
They
acre.
never
They
had
never
to begin
owned
with.
it.
They
Now
never
they're
had-
just
right.
making, they're drawing the line different. There's a little
Okay.
cutout in the line.
That makes it different.
This was technicalities par excellence.
Okay, we have a motion.
That is my motion.
All right, we have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve that CSM vacation. We're creating a new one on Savoy Road. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None. Motion carried. Okay, public comments period number 1.
Sorry, straight from work. W2359 Troy Hill Lane. I just wanted to shout out to Jen. She's been very helpful with our police department Facebook page, the town Facebook page, compared to what it was to what it is now, and all the recommendations. So I appreciate it to Jen. Whether something was checkmarked or not in a contract, that's kind of throwing a town employee under the bus. That should be maybe discussed in private. Not appropriate. Think better next time, Michelle.
All right, next, Mr. Jones. Yeah, moving.
I would be happy to speak a little bit. I have some prepared comments that I'm gonna alter a little bit, but I think where the comments came here, this whole thing with the communications committee should have been solved between the communications committee and the employees. That's where it should have been, not on this forum.
Should
And it-
this,
you're
should
correct.
this be
And-
a different, should we be tabling discussion?
No, not public
No.
comments.
And now you're eating into my 3
I'm
minutes.
sorry.
So the point is, we were attempting, to the best of my knowledge, to have discussions, very open discussions in the communication. Barb was present, so you can vouch for all the open discussions. And then Michelle was going to go have discussions with Jen. And then all of a sudden, letters come out to the board. That is not an appropriate way to solve this stuff. If the board is gonna put a committee together to deal with communications, then the communications committee should deal with that internally, and then there should be something presented to the board for approval, whatever that would be. So, I just don't understand how this unfolded the way it was, and that a letter gets thrust into this packet, without any discussion with Michelle, I think. I don't know, so, I agree with the statement, but I don't think it was Michelle that did it.
All right, thank you. And like I said, I asked for that to be done. Like I said, I already explained it, I can't unilaterally just giving directions to Jen because she works for the board, she works for the judge. Okay, for Kim. And though there are real concerns, and we had actually a pretty decent conversation here 15 minutes ago, just about it, about the one issue, and that was the platform type deal. Okay, so we're gonna do that. But I wanna make sure it's also known that, you know, how that direction goes to a town employee, it has to come from you. And I thought I'd get that clear, but I'm the one that asked that. I did not anticipate that the letter would end up in the packet. If I would've seen it before I said, go ahead and send it out, Kim, I probably would've said, that should just go to the board members. That would've been my, preference, but if we're talking about transparency, you can't get more transparent than that, okay? Because, it's really almost like internal communications, similar to what we did back when we had a legal opinion, from snow plowing roads, and people didn't believe what was said there. We actually put Mr. Mills' opinion out there in the packet. Again, you're talking about transparency, that's normally not something where, you know, that's attorney-client privilege type deal where he's giving direction to the board doing his job. We put it out there to stop that issue of saying, well, we don't believe that ever happened. No.
Actually, I think it was put out there because I didn't put personal and confidential on the top of
Well,
Did you know what you put on there?
that's something we should. sort of
I
think
had
a
no
little bit
idea
about.
it was gonna be.
Right, so that's kind of, again, you're talking about transparency, you can't get any farther than that. And I do believe the people that are all involved here are professional enough that they can handle this and deal with this. There's nothing in here that really should, move beyond the initial shock. Start over on that part and say, okay, here's where we're at, and again, part of it is Jen wasn't at these meetings, okay, and there was reasons for that, because, so.
Because it's after hours, right, and we didn't
Well,
expect her to come to the evening meetings.
Well, again, the meeting that has to discuss this, Jen's gotta be there, okay, period, okay? There's no question on how that's gonna go, because it's gonna be, okay, here's the pros and cons, here's what we can do and not do, what's our best choice? And we've never really scrimped our money too much around here for that part of it. Again, if we're talking a couple $100, that's not gonna be something where we're gonna hang our neck out to say, well, it costs, $10 more or whatever. No, it's, what is it? Board decides, and we move on. So, that's the gist of it. Like I said, that, if I had my druthers, I probably wouldn't have ended up that way, but your point is excellent. You're right, but.
The discussion belonged between Michelle and Jen, and Jean or Kim, whoever else needed to be in that discussion.
And I requested.
And there was
meetings.
attempts, I think, to reach out to have discussions, and I think what this speaks to is an inability to work as a team. And so I want that to be understood. Let's talk the stuff out, and if there's a reason to go with Facebook, shoot, we'll go with Facebook. But there's never been a discussion. It's just a shot over the bow with this 5-page letter, accusatory letter, in my opinion.
There's a shot back in public, though, it's
Yeah.
tit for tat, I mean, come on, I mean, you
Yeah.
gotta be more professional on this behind.
It was opened up by putting that in a packet for the public.
And our
You
names were,
understand?
our names were in it,
So,
which is not right either.
Okay, all right, public comments? Mr. Stoves?
I got 4 things I want to cover, so I'm gonna move along quickly. I got a phone call from the fire department chief, Tagero, last week, asking if he could come down and do some training on the shoreline there. We have open water over there, they were able to walk out, do some training, they got the dive guys in the water, and it worked out well. They were out there for just under 4 hours, and I stopped down, I spent 5 minutes there, everyone was real nice, they were very thankful, and it was a good deal, so they got to use the lake there, and everything worked out well. All the discussion that's going on tonight about the communications committee, I had a conversation with Jen maybe 3 or 4 months back. I was at the town taking care of something, and I saw her area open up there, so I went up there and I touched base with her. With the way the town has been doing the town board meetings, the live streaming, they only have the capabilities to have 1 year worth of retention of the videos. Now, when Jen and I had a conversation, she said, I asked her, well, how do you plan on dealing with the 7-year retention, which is required by law, because when I was on an ad hoc communication
It's
committee.
not,
It's not.
it's 90 days.
Well, I was told, when I went to Muskego, that was my area to go down and check on, they told me that you have to retain the records for 7 years. So,
There's an exception in chapter 19.21 for audio or video.
okay, but don't you think it's best for the public, if they wanna go back and review something that happened 4 years ago, that they can do it?
I think the legislature would have made that determination as to what's best for the public.
Well, I don't
Or
know
they
why.
made the law.
I don't know why we were told one thing, and that's what I brought back to the communication committee at the time. But if it's different, that's fine, but I just think, if you retain it, I'm gonna retain my videos, so they'll be out there, so if you need to use them, watch my stuff. Alright, okay, when we had our annual meeting, I think it was 2 years ago at the firehouse, there was discussion there just before we created the ad hoc committee and, for communication,
And there were several people that asked that if anybody uses this facility and they take taxpayer money, that they have the, use of the facility live streamed so the public can see what they're paying for. And I don't think that has been addressed anywhere, I haven't heard any dialogue on it. Maybe it has been addressed behind the scenes and I don't know about it, but if it is out there, I'd like to know about it, but I don't know about it right now. So, I think the only group that may affect is the rehabilitation on Potter's Lake and the Lake Buell Management District. Those are the two people that take taxpayers' money that you can't watch like right now. And I already shared this live stream on Informed Citizens during the meeting before, so there are people that are watching it right now. I saw 6 or 7 people that were watching it live right now. One other thing, and I'll boogie out, what is the policy or how do you go about getting a house check from the police department?
Call in and ask me to put it on, and I put in the notes. and
Okay,
they
I
check.
had somebody text me during the meeting and they wanted to know how to do it, and I just want to get the question out there.
Yep, so just tell them to call the police non-emergency line and explain what they wanna do.
Thank you.
You bet.
Yeah, and we could possibly have that in the future, I didn't talk about that, but the two management districts are totally separate from the town. We have no say in what they do, if they want to do it and, you know, hire us to set up the hardware or whatever, we could certainly entertain that, but it's not our deal at all. And we didn't.
No, but the electors are asking for it.
Sure, I
And,
understood.
you know, they're paying for it, so, you know, why wouldn't they get it?
Okay, I think we'll discuss that as.
Thank you.
All right, public comments? Anyone else? We good? That's cool? Okay. All right, unfinished business. Okay, the emergency response plan. We all had our big meeting, and we went through and had all of our comments. I got more folders here than shit. And the changes now have been made with some notations on there. I believe what it says is, this document should be reviewed for content changes, which I did. It will be completely retyped for formatting issues to keep that consistent throughout the entire document. Please note any additional issues, let me know, so that I can update the document. And of course, this is Chad, part of Chad's deal too, and so we won't do anything final here, but do you guys have any comments when you go through your notes versus what was in here? I only had a couple. Again, we're not gonna approve this tonight, but I did, I'm just gonna go through on page 5.
Okay. Page 5.
Page 5, F on the top, is listed, chairman, clerk, treasurer, chief of police, DPW, superintendent. I had wrote down in my notes, also emergency government CEO. Is that possibly?
I have that too.
I did not have that in that section, let me look at my original notes. I have 2 places where I had questions still from what I sent to you guys.
That was the first one we had.
I've got town chairman, incident coordinator, town treasurer, chairman of financial, I've got chief of police, and then I just have, DPW superintendent.
Okay, I had wrote down emergency government.
Okay, where do you want that person?
Right below DPW superintendent.
Right,
Did you have any?
because they changed their mind, I thought. Okay, so add emergency government CEO in there?
That's where Jim put it too.
Okay. All right, again, I'm gonna be looking to see where something is highlighted here, or I have a note.
No, that's
You didn't
perfect.
have too many places where you highlighted a question. Page 14, you had one, the page numbers.
Yeah, so what's gonna happen is when I do the reformatting and so forth, right now, page numbers don't match the table of contents, so to speak. But once I get the formatting down, I will make sure that the table of contents match the actual page numbers. I will try to get it so that there's not one line on the next page. My question for you with regard to that is, say there, for instance, when I look at page 16 into 17, if I were to make that 11-point font instead of 12-point font to get it all on one page,
would that be acceptable, or do you wanna keep that consistent 12-point font and flow on to a second page, for instance? So,
You're
I
correct.
might suggest like maybe tweaking the margins a little bit. if it's
I've
on
done
the-
that already, so it might, with what I'm doing, I've tweaked the margins, I've made them a little bit smaller at the top, a little smaller at the bottom. Still allows for 3-hole punching, and so forth, so it might not be an issue when I get to that place, but I just wanted to ask that question.
Have mercy on these tired old eyes.
I know,
Yeah,
exactly, so
yeah.
that would be like a last resort, and that's why I wanted to ask that question. I really think that a lot of that's gonna be solved with, the change of the margins.
Yeah, or if you.
And when I can adjust the spacing between things as well.
That's what I was gonna say,
Mhm.
sometimes where it's
Yeah.
double spaced, you can.
But
make
this
the lines
is-
in between
This is
smaller.
this original document was lots of cutting and pasting and tables, and it was crazy, so that's good.
Right, and then, top of page 19, you got highlighted police chief or designee.
Yeah, I think that I had, Police Chief DeGar, that was one where we didn't have anything
Oh.
written for him.
That's
In there?
law enforcement, so that would be police chief.
Okay, we just didn't, I didn't have any notes on that particular page, so I wanted to make sure.
Okay, and then page 20, after public information, I put police chief.
Okay,
You guys have that too?
Yes.
alright,
Yes.
or designee,
Yeah, there was standard language, yeah.
Yep. okay. Under, line of succession,
What page are you on?
on page 21. And I don't know, I believe you guys have the copy where item 7 lists the board members.
Yep.
That was suggested not to list the board members, just leave it obtuse because of changes that come about.
That would be the.
And should we get
correct
to
for
number
all of
7, then, that was suggested by Attorney Mills to leave that off
I believe that's right, because,
and just leave it as board members.
yeah.
Pardon me, Bill?
We're gonna get plugged into the roles.
Right.
So leaving 3 supervisors unidentified allows them to be any role
Yeah,
as needed.
yeah.
Okay, page 29. Damage assessment. I have wrote down on the top, 2 chiefs, the fire and police. chief.
Okay,
Anybody have that?
I did not.
I think that was a discussion, when you said, well, who,
I agree that.
who should do it?
Okay,
I think we were discussing also Todd a little bit, and I don't think we left it there, because, we could actually include them too, if the damage assessment includes infrastructure, you know, bridges and roads, buildings. So, I had kind of a question on that, should we have the 2 chiefs and the DPW superintendent?
I do have on page 31 where they've got the all hazard recovery.
Mm-hmm.
That one has all departments. Do you want damage assessment as, or do you want it? No? So police,
Is that almost the same thing you're saying?
okay, so for 7, do you want police, fire, and DPW? Attachment 7, page 29.
29, I would say, fire, police, and DPW. I sort of remember that conversation.
And I don't have any notes written at that
Alright, do
point,
that.
but I was stepping in and out.
Yeah, so 2 chiefs and DPW superintendent, and then the following one, then with the all hazard, all departments is appropriate, because that would be the cover-all for everything.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Actually, you know, considering I went through an inch of paper here, I didn't find much that you missed here, and it was going pretty hot and heavy, all the scribbling. Page 39. I had you covered public works, I think you had superintendent, or designee
Oh.
superintendent.
Okay. Superintendent or designee again?
Yeah,
39 George.
39.
Okay.
I didn't have anything else. The only thing was at the end, we were still looking for 1 cam.
I have gotten now, stuff from, the only one I don't have something from is Charles Ellis. I've gotten it from Sheltering Oaks, I've gotten it from, what was the other one, I can't remember.
Camp Edwards, Beaver Camp.
Salvation.
Salvation Army, I have that, I've got Electric Railroad Museum, I've got, Electric Railroad Museum contact information.
Camp Ellis Chester. Yeah, so you're, that's just missing one then.
Yeah.
Camp Charles Ellis.
Yeah.
You know, it was, I mean, the way it's laid out is similar to the other ones we have in here. It should be in there.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm just trying to get in contact with them.
who have you been calling?
Let me see if my note says who I left an email with or. It's on the contact page.
He's a
I
board member. I
have.
don't know if he's,
Sent an email, I'd have to look at my notes. Heather Rudolph.
she's the.
Oh, no, not Heather. She's Camp Alice Chester. Camp Charles Alice, I've just been able to leave a phone message. I don't have any other contact information.
Okay. I can make one call to a member that's there, and then when I find out who would be the best person to do
Sure.
this, I'll get that to you.
Okay,
So, I'm gonna call, Craig Webster, he's a member there.
okay. Yeah, if you can give me a phone number, that'd be fantastic. Cause I've only been able to leave a number at that
Yep.
phone number.
Okay, that's all I have, anybody else have any?
Just would like to make a comment and indirectly, Mr. Jones, because working on this municipal emergency operation plan with the elected officials, department heads, this is extraordinarily complicated and a huge commitment to the township, and we worked together extremely well, communicated very well with each other. So while there may be hiccups from time to time, I'm quite proud of what we've accomplished in a very short time on this emergency preparedness operation. Now, we have to test it and figure out some, fill in some of the blanks, but an extraordinary professional job is being had so far.
Okay, no, you had nothing else on your notes, or you were done?
And if
Okay,
anybody
so,
finds something later, shoot them to me because
Yes.
I can do that.
so you have to kind of start from scratch, kind of retype
No,
it?
actually, I'm being able to take smaller chunks,
Mhm.
delete all the formatting,
Okay.
and then put in the new formatting, which I was surprised. Cause I started retyping and I'm like, dang. But as long as I'm doing little chunks of deleting the formatting, it's going pretty well.
So next month, to
Yes.
possibly approve?
Yes, and of course, Chad will be here, but, I would think at that time, we could probably say approve draft submittal for county review.
Yep.
That's the way it should be listed. Okay, all right, next on the agenda, next steps in the police garage project, and of course, now we're calling it the police administration building. Cause that's what it would be when you did something on it. We have, we got a courtesy copy of a RFP for something like this. And we're calling it professional architectural and engineering services for the police administration building. And if we're to get, proposals from builders, contractors, architects, or any combination thereof, the design build is a combination, and, it would have to probably state on its base what we're looking for. And if we're saying design build, that should be on the first page. So it would be, design build services.
Instead of architectural engineering?
Yep.
Okay.
Design build. And then the date to be returned, if we approve this tonight, I had penciled in April first, what did you come up with?
I wasn't sure what you were thinking.
Yeah, I would think by April first, we wanna have it back in our hands, that's basically 6 weeks, get better. That's plenty of time,
How
normally
about
you give them a
April
month.
3rd? April 1st is a Saturday.
You wanna be here to accept envelope?
No, sir.
April 3rd it is.
Or March 31st.
We don't meet till the 10th?
Yeah, Fridays give people heart attacks. Okay, then we have on the second page the contact information on who the questions versus our FP should come to. And I have penciled in Kim, Joe, Jim. I don't know who would be the appropriate one. It could be me. Jim, what's your thought on this? This would be questions that come in from contractors that have questions on this RFP.
I never saw that document.
Good.
It came very late. I think I get it today,
No.
or late Friday. I think maybe I got it Friday, and so it never made it into the packet.
I think I sent it.
That's something we had in a couple weeks. But anyway, the questions, oh, wait a minute. I thought I
I've
already
never,
seen it.
this was, Friday was the first I saw it.
Okay. We need Jim to look at this. We need to authorize him to look at that. It's an RFP, it's not a contract. Okay, it's an RFP, request for proposals from design build firms for this building. They would, present basically a price and schedule to us based on our preliminary floor plan, which would be the latest one, would be attached, and stating the type of building structure that we're looking for, okay? And we want a post and frame construction. Exactly the same as the one that was Eagle, get bigger bang for our buck, get more space, building materials more readily available. I do think we'd have to state that in here. But, back to the contact information, I could certainly do this. This is kind of what I did for 50 years too anyway, but, the question would be, is that okay with Lord?
Yes.
As the contact person. So put my name in there,
Is that okay with you, Michelle?
and then, no addenda will be issued after I put down March 15th, because they're gonna have this advertised a week from now. So that would be, roughly 3 weeks for them to have questions. And then they have to return it by April 3rd. So
That A and E thing needs to go, right?
What?
Potential A and Es to attend, A and Es
Oh,
refer to architectural.
yeah,
architectural
answers for the
engineering.
questions
Yeah, so I guess that, yeah, exactly how are we doing this? Then
Well-
is this gonna include the full materials?
anybody who,
We're
responds.
only gonna do one RFP then,
Correct.
if we're doing design and build. It's gotta include all the specs and the materials,
Right, and.
so they may need longer.
Yeah, right. And the other thing
And
about that
this
is.
language will have to be
Yeah.
modified significantly, I
Yeah,
think.
the thing about it is that when they have questions, the people that, that would come and basically pick this up, from here, we'd have a list of contractors that are interested in this job. So we get a question from a contractor, we have to get a response to all of them, to have basically the plans on it, if you want to call it that. Okay, so the time period, you're right, that should be, probably, you don't wanna have it, closer than a week. And if we're saying, April 3rd, it would be
Yeah.
a week before that,
For question?
before you would not take any more questions. There's gotta be
Oh,
a-
I would traditionally, like when I send out an RFP, they have to do the return acknowledgement within a couple of days, or maybe a week. If it's just being posted, I guess it's different, because normally I would mail it out to specific people. So return acknowledgement maybe within a week, and then, questions fairly early, because then we're gonna have to take a few days to publish the answers to all of the questions, and then they can start building their proposal.
To the list of people that expressed that interest. So
Who did
you're
the
right.
acknowledgement,
By changing this to design build, we do have to do more.
do some more editing.
We're gonna have to do more editing on this. And that decision really was kind of made, really last So, that date of the March fifteenth is probably still in a bad date. But on the bottom of page 2, that would have to match page 1, and that would be April 3rd. Similar here. And the rest of it, where do you mail it to? Top of page 3, that should be Kim. And it's gonna be to the administrative building here. So it's here, so that's Kim. And then I added a second meeting under scope of work. We had to attend one pre-design meeting with town staff and police chief, architect, engineer, and design build contractor. Must maintain fiduciary responsibility in keeping the project under a half-million design and construction budget. And then I added a second meeting, attend one pre-design meeting, with the public, with town residents. So it'd be a second meeting we want them to do. That's gonna be in the scope. And the rest of it.
Joe, did you make the, dollar sign .5, either .05
Yeah.
million or $500,000?
Or,
Cause that,
or
How
500,000.
it could be $5
Yeah,
million.
$500,000.
$500,000.
Yep, great. Good. Well, also on the bottom of page 3, strike well and septic, you don't need that. And the rest of it, I believe, is gonna be Jim's review, and then me and Michelle, editing this to go to a design build format. Okay, contact policy, please direct all contact to, so on the bottom of page 7, that's saying, you know, when we as a town are talking with that contractor, they have to designate who that person is. So they'd have to list in their proposal, you know, that name, so that does have to be filled out by them, not by us.
So, we wanna clarify that.
Point person.
Yes.
Provide.
We have to write that. And that may mean, Todd, you're gonna have another meeting over at Tanis, because, the RFP for design build firm is gonna be about 10% different than what we have at AE, so. Okay.
So I wondered in section 3, when we talked, section 3.01.b, qualifications, do we have any specific qualifications that we want to list, or what does it take to become
So,
a supplier to the town and get added to our system and our list, and
which section are you on?
section 3.01b?
Okay. I think there's 301B, project, okay. Project grids qualifications is showing similar buildings that they've done, that's what we're doing now.
Right, but are there things that we wanna specify they should have as
Do you mean
qualifications?
like minority
Like-
workers or
Oh, I think just, like minimum qualifications, do they have any certifications? Are we gonna need someone with HVAC certification, or are they gonna make sure they hire someone with plumbing certification, electrical, those kind of things?
That's the difference.
Foundation requirements.
That's the difference of going from the AE to the design and build. With design build, they're responsible 100% for all of that. That's all agreed into the one project, okay? So whatever they need to use to comply with state law, you know, and the building code, they have to do. So I don't think you spoon feed them on that, because they are bidding on a project as a design build firm. That is their job. So I don't think so, but then providing, you know, examples of their work in similar projects and all that, that's all.
Joe, wouldn't that be similar, like when we put our road bids out too, they have to send us the projects that they've done?
That's kind of what it says here.
Yeah, it says projects, but I guess.
Provide a description, resume, bio, skills, qualifications, and experience of the primary team that will be assigned specifically to the project. Identify key individual experience with similar project, providing relevant information about each individual and what the principals expect, the extent of involvement, blah, blah, blah. And then we go into organizational chart, experience qualifications, decision points, and any consultants that they're gonna use. Of course, they're gonna list the architect from, well, David before that. The other one may have one from Whitewater or one from Lake Geneva. So we're gonna have to redo this, and I got a copy for Jim here. I believe we're noticed here properly, we authorize you to check this? The next steps, approval and authorization to advertise, well, we're not gonna be doing that today. Do you need to be authorized on this separately?
I would.
Okay. Put that on the next, the March 4th meeting, and I'll give you an advance copy, so at least you have it in your file. So, we're not gonna be advertising that now, but we have to keep moving forward here, so we'll have to carve out a little time next week. And also, we're gonna go visit Tanis again. We are now agreed upon the floor plan, so we have that. I don't think that's gonna change more, both of you looked at that, we're good. So we're gonna table this until the March meeting, the regular March meeting, but we may authorize Jim at the March 4th meeting, at our other special meeting, to just do that authorization as a board, to have Jim start on that, so he's ready 9 days later to give us a view on it.
That's, so we're gonna add a second item to the
Second item on the agenda for March 4th.
Cause Saturday doesn't really count.
You don't have, well, it's an authorization, so, okay. And the, RFP, and what is the other thing we were doing at that meeting?
Partner.
Yep, we are, but we're gonna take 2 minutes out of their time to do two.
Well, you can start at 9:45.
We can do that too. Yeah, whatever fits for you. Okay, that's where we're at. Been a long way done on this one too, you know what it looks like. Okay, next one, scheduled meeting to meet with the East Troy Railroad Museum to discuss Beach Road, Bridge over Railroad. It'll be March 4th, 10 a.m. here. And that was decided upon. We had 4 dates. We got rid of the February date, and DOT would fill in all those dates. Of course, those dates were provided by the Railroad Museum. So it's March 4th here, and we're gonna talk about how we go forward on the Beach Road Bridge.
Maybe 9:45.
Probably 9:45, other stuff. Okay, new business. Agreements with Wisconsin Department of Transportation and the Village of East Troy for the State Road 20 project. I see the Rail's already out there, so they're already working, and they've been asking for this, but we couldn't do our agreement until the village provided an agreement for us to sign. Couple of years back, we, did a resolution to declare an absence of need for us, for the town, because, really most of the residents of where this portion is of our town that's, gonna be affected by this Highway 20 project, we didn't need sidewalks, so the village said, well, we're doing sidewalks anyway, we'll build it, we'll maintain it, but we need an agreement to put that into writing. So the agreement's in your packet. The first one is the agreement between the village and the town for this project. And I'll call your attention to one thing, that's under snow and ice removal. And it says, this is the village's agreement, and actually they're following the law too. Snow and ice removal. The village shall be responsible for the timely removal of snow and ice from the portion of the sidewalk installed as part of the State Trunk Highway 20 project that is located within the town as required by WSDOT in section 3 of Exhibit C. However, the town will first seek compliance from the owner adjacent to the sidewalk with section 1245 of the town's code on pertaining to snow and ice removal. That's our code that says if it's in the town, the residents are responsible for that. So, where that is where Highway 20 comes to the village. You got the cemetery here, and then there's 2 parcels of land that are still in the town. So there's a finger of land that's town, all this gray is village, that's it. So that sidewalk, if you look at your plan, is actually in front of the cemetery, and one property owner of the town. It's called Gooden ES/20 LLC. So I believe it's a business, I don't think anybody lives there, to tell you the truth.
It's a home.
Somebody in there?
That's a regular.
You ever been in there?
Yeah.
Somebody's in there? So, what it says is the town will seek compliance. Well, yeah, we can seek compliance, we'll tell them that, hey, there's a sidewalk there and you're responsible. I feel a little bit, I don't know, strange that we're dictating that to them, but we're not, you know, we didn't ask for the sidewalk, we declared an absence of need. They're gonna build it anyway. So I don't really have a problem signing this thing. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, that was the only thing that I thought was a little bit.
Well, that was the one question I wrote down, who does that affect and how do you enforce them shoveling or plowing the sidewalk?
Do we have any sidewalks in town anywhere? No.
I can
So-
tell you how they did it in West Dallas for my son. You either have it shoveled off by a certain time of the day.
to draft an ordinance.
Yeah, you either have it shoveled off by a certain time of the day, or they shovel it off and they charge you for it.
In this case, since, well, the village would probably be doing the cemetery, okay? And they would probably continue that extra 100 feet and go to the corner, because I think the sidewalk, if you look on the plan, it's on the state municipal agreement for DOT when I leave that for the pictures of it. It's in the first one. No, it's in it's the colored one. So if you look at the exhibit, you see that the sidewalk goes along Oak Ridge Cemetery, and it ends, looks like about 100 feet past the cemetery. That's where those two properties are, is one owner, the Gooden ES/20 LLC. So they have no intention of going past that. And really, it's really kind of strange, because if it had actually a crossing of County ES to go to the Quick Trip, it would make sense, but they're not doing that. And of course, they're redoing that intersection, which at one time was supposed to be a roundabout, and that got beat down. They would actually have a safe way to get through that intersection. Now they'd have to have it at the stoplights, and it's crossing two turn lanes, you know, that's best, but that's. The other option is to go up ES and either a relatively short distance from the intersection, which is bad too. So, like I said, if they're following their ordinance and we're following our ordinance, or town code, which they spell out, we really can't force the village to change this, because that's kind of law.
I reviewed it, had no problems with it.
Okay. And Barb, you said you made your same notes?
I did, I was really curious whether we were going to put a tractor with a plow on a trailer and
No.
hike it over to.
No,
the cemetery.
yeah, property owners are responsible, but the fact of the matter is, how it's gonna happen is, the village is gonna probably do that sidewalk of the cemetery, and if it's still snowing, they're gonna go to another 100 feet, whether or not they charge us, remains to be seen. They can charge the property owner, but I doubt it, they probably charge the town, and we would charge the property owner, something like that. But again, we'd have to, create an ordinance that kind of dictates how that would operate, so.
Well, that leads me to, on page 2 of that document, C was to implement street sweeping program. I know we don't have a street
No,
sweeper
that's
either.
them, okay, we're,
Well, it was right under the snowplow one.
okay. The village will be responsible. The village is ready to request the town board approve future assessment of the site per, I still don't see this.
Under number 3,
Three permits, village responsible according to the state to obtain record.
3, implement a street sweeping program to help,
Oh, you're on the state municipal agreement.
Oh, I was confused.
sorry,
So,
The state municipal agreement, is between, you know, it's really, the village is responsible for all of that, okay?
I didn't understand that.
But since it's in our municipality, that's why we have to sign the state agreement, but we can't sign the state agreement and take that on without the village one, because it's their responsibility. So did you look between the two agreements, between the village?
No, I just looked at the intergovernmental agreement.
Okay, not the state
I
one.
have a question before you go too much farther.
Good.
So in section 2, which Barb was referencing, the village reserves the right to request town board approval for future special assessments related to sidewalk repair or replacement. So 30 years from now, when they wanna replace the sidewalk, they're gonna put a special assessment against the cemetery, which is a tax exempt property. And the cemetery is gonna say, we don't have the money, so the town will end up paying for it 30 years from now.
Good point. It's tax exempt, so I don't know how they could think of doing that, but
Yeah.
Well,
I don't
the
think we can.
cemetery could say, we can't afford this, we're turning the whole cemetery over to the town. There becomes a burden on town taxpayers.
good possibility. As far as the portion on the Gooden property, that would be a special assessment to that property owner, or whoever the
Correct.
property owner is then, 31st.
And the village couldn't specially assess that property, only we could.
Right, they'd have to assess us, the town.
No, they'd have to, it says request our approval. That means they're going to tell us, you need to specially assess that property for X amount of dollars.
Well, it says request approval, we don't have to grant it.
That's true.
True.
You can refuse at that time. And then they have to pay it, right?
They drafted it.
Could the property owner refuse to do that? I mean, if there's no other sidewalks in town, couldn't they feel that that was an unfair?
They can only specially assess for a benefit that was provided. So if they get out there and show the sidewalk themselves, I don't know what, oh, to replace it though.
Well, either.
Well, that's the, like I said, the only way we could sign the state municipal agreement is if we sign the intergovernmental agreement with the village. And, you didn't have any problem, I don't have a problem with the village one, really, because, it makes sense. But the only reason why this is gonna be attached to the state agreement is because that responsibility is established that the village is responsible for all that. But now when you read this, like the King pointed out, you pointed out on that one too, you know, we're the signatory as the town of East Troy on this.
So therefore, we're the municipality, right?
Well,
That's the way I read
as,
it.
as amended or as affected by the intergovernmental agreement signed and dated on this date. That's how the two are connected.
Can't you just adjust that one with the village to say that all burden of future payment and maintenance falls on the village?
I don't think you could do that.
Well, and under terms and conditions, it says the state will withhold transportation aids,
Mhm.
and I
That's how they
worried
get,
how that would impact.
But I'm talking
Our
about the
roads.
sidewalk.
yeah, but all these things with storm sewer and right-of-way encroachments and all, I mean, all of that, that goes back to the intergovernmental agreement with the village. They're responsible for it. We declared it by absence of need that we don't want it. Okay, we don't want it, we don't need it, makes no sense, but they wanna do it, okay? So we did a resolution in 2015, guess we didn't, Kim signed it, that says, it's a resolution addressing the need for an exception to Trans 75 standards on a local lat Woodstock project. And we said there's an absence of need. So, we didn't want it, the program says they're gonna do it, it really goes like the sidewalk to nowhere, really, unless they eventually connect it to Quick Trip. But it's not part of this project, so that doesn't make any sense at all, really. You know. So,
One of them probably might get a double maybe, right?
well, they could potentially, it'd be more.
Do
Yes,
we-
if-
Would we
across-
assume any liability for a crash with a pedestrian that attempts to cross at that intersection?
Well, at this time, there's no crossing shown.
I,
There is
But
no-
if there's a sidewalk, people are gonna try to cross.
that's That's
Oh,
what I thought.
Yeah, there's a sidewalk there. So,
With no crosswalks and no controlled intersection with regard to
We
walk, don't
assume
walk.
Liability.
The intersections in the village.
Not all.
Not all of it,
Not all of it, because if
the one corner
our
is us.
resident
The
or
right
our
turn
property
lane on
owner.
Three quarters
has
of
to
the-
Under 20 is,
Yeah.
3/4 and 1/4.
The sidewalk, that's partially town.
Yeah, 1 quadrant is in the town.
I mean, if they walk from the cemetery to Quick Trip, they're walking
Maybe
through
coming from
the last
Culver's.
section is through the town.
I have never seen a pedestrian in that area.
Cause there weren't sidewalks.
All right,
Gas
I mean,
Put them right at subdivision.
Motorists without really asking.
one agreement is affected by the other. We don't sign one without the other. That in itself may be another reason to, Jim said you'd ever compared the state one to the village one?
Correct.
Okay. How those two are connected, that comes to the liability issue, as well as the future maintenance issue. They do mention all these other things that we're responsible for, and if we, agree to it, yes, we'd be responsible for everything in that
Street
portion.
sweeping.
Can we agree to it striking that language though?
Usually not. Usually not. State municipal agreements are, this is boilerplate stuff that their legal counsel has went through many a lawsuit, and this is where they landed. And if you want the money, of course, in this case, we're not getting any. If we want the money, you follow their rules. That's the law of the land there. But in this case, we're not paying for that sidewalk, we're not maintaining that sidewalk. The property owner on a little tiny piece of it is responsible for shoveling the snow. But thinking, knowing what I heard here, I think we're also gonna authorize Jim to compare the state municipal agreement with this one.
I mean, I'm using transportation.
Well, it does say that, but again, the second agreement basically puts the burden back on the village, but I would like Jim.
Well,
to-
with the state agreement, just in the caption, it talks about the limits and what the agreement applies to. Those aren't that's not the town stretch of that
No,
portion.
well,
Thomas Drive to Honey Creek Road,
that's the whole project.
right.
That's
So why
where
would
they
we
get it
sign
from.
anything that has that as the parameters?
Because they talk about the portion that's within the county of East Troy municipality.
Where does it break it down?
To include the associated maintenance responsibilities. It does not have the maps like the village one,
No, it doesn't.
so, I mean, one could refer to the other, but you're right, you don't have a direct connection. Somebody could, make an issue with that.
I mean, it talks about the signalized intersection at
Right.
20 and ES, but doesn't quite specify the town. I mean,
Yeah, because then down in point 4, it talks about prohibiting angle parking and regulating parking, so it's more than just that intersection.
yeah.
All right, I think that's what I wanna do. So we'll have to put that also on that agenda. Authorize Attorney Mills to review the state municipal maintenance agreement and its interaction with the intergovernmental agreement with the village of East Troy in regards to the state highway 20 project.
Is that something?
And then
that-
you would potentially edit the intergovernmental agreement, right?
That's gonna be a
Yes,
process.
cause I don't think I can do anything with the state agreement.
Is this something that you would further discuss at the tribe?
Could, I mean, they,
Meeting? Thank you.
we were waiting for them to give us this, and you notice it also says draft.
Yeah.
I would presume the one I would sign would be a, official copy. And what did I give you, Jim? Did I give you, which one did I give you?
The one I have, oh,
Was in the packet.
right, but I had one, at the office too.
The state one or the?
You gave me the intergovernmental one, that's the
Okay,
only
so you
one I
have them both.
Now I have them both, yes.
All right, so you have to authorize you to look at that. I'm not signing it until he says it's okay, and, no. And tell you the truth, I've been asking for this agreement for 6, 8 months, and it finally got it, like a week ago, so. All right, moving on. Culvert inspection proposals. Well, we could probably pull the trigger on this because it's a tiny amount, and we have it in the old roads deal. But the reason I brought it up to your attention is when I originally got the 2 proposals, the one I got from Core Engineering, I requested specifically because they had a contract with Walworth County to do all of Walworth County, and the efficiencies there are obvious. So, but the first time they gave me an agreement, the one from Core was $325 per bridge, which is crazy. I did a cost estimate 15 years ago to do the county, and it came up like 500 back then. So I called them up and I said, you know, this is the first time you are gonna see this culvert. They didn't know that. I said, well, if you look at the documents we gave you and the coordinates and what they are, they said, no. An initial one would have been more than that, so I said, give me a new contract. So we have a contract, proposal with Core Engineering, and they're gonna do it at the same time that they do the whole county for the 2 culverts, and that's Stringers Bridge Road and Beulah Heights Road with $1,300, okay? The second proposal
The one I
was Collins,
said a lump, oh, by saying a lump sum of $650?
that's
That
the original one.
was the one in the packet. There was a new one on the table in front of you this evening.
So, that's why I brought it up, so the actual cost will be, $650, right? And the one from Collins Engineers, now they would have to come out specifically just to do 2 culverts, so that, they'd have mobilization from Milwaukee, and, their price came out, the price is like $4,600. So it's not as if it's, there's a question of what we're doing here. I brought to your attention that there's a difference between, what was originally proposed and how it makes a difference whether you have somebody that's here already versus the other one. So I would propose that you authorize me to sign the 1-page contract with Core Engineering for $1,300 for initial inspection for the 2 culverts.
I'll make that motion, but some discussion.
Okay.
There's a second.
All right,
I'll second.
Michelle, second. Okay, discussion.
It just seems crazy to me. One's at 1,300 and one's at 46.
Well, it's still 2, so it's 2,300 versus 650. There's multiple 4, yeah. And the difference is, again, you pay for the hours.
You're saying because they're here, it's gonna be that much less. Because they're doing everybody in the county.
You're doing every bridge in the county.
Synergy of scale there, and
Yes.
it could be 1/3 or 2/3 less.
It's
Well,
quite a
if they're
bit.
doing the county, maybe they're considering anybody within the county.
Yeah, we have the benefit of the price that they gave to the county for the other bridges. You got that benefit, okay?
That's amazing.
It is. But
Well,
I wasn't secure with it because I seen the first time, I'm going, there's no way. So I called up and said, this is an initial inspection. Oh, yeah.
well, is it clearly $1,300 each? It says we'll complete the bridge inspections for a lump sum fee of $1,300.
Because we have 2, where's the other, you tore up the other one, right? Okay, the work under this contract shall consist of providing routine bridge inspection for the town of East Troy for culverts on Stringers Bridge Road and Pickerel Creek and Beulah Heights Road over Chandler Lake Beulah. So,
I'm seeing 1,300, not 2,600.
oh, no, he's talking about Core or Collins. Collins,
Oh, but I thought you said $1,300 each, and so it's
No,
gonna
no,
be, okay,
so,
all right,
for both, it's $1,300, so $650
Yeah.
each. And
Yeah.
so it's either 4,600 or 1,300.
so well, then, this 1,300, they will complete it by August 31st, right? By having Collins, specifically come out and do it, would it be a different?
Yeah, yes, it would be. I think the main thing is when Corey does it, when they're doing the whole county, okay, it's gonna fall in that timeline, and they have timelines on their contract there, so, I do believe you mentioned that, correct? Yeah, so they're saying they'd have the field work done by August 31st. Collins, I'm not quite sure.
I don't see a date.
I didn't see a date.
And what they would do, would be when it's spring, summer, not now, okay, even though there could be some advantages to doing it now, there's more disadvantages. So, again, it was the same two, ranges, I gave the same, latitude and longitude, so there's no issue with what it
You
was.
just need to vote on that one, Edward.
What's that?
You just need to vote on that one quick.
Okay, any more discussion on it? Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the road inspection, home inspection contract with Core Engineering for $1,300, and the motion, all in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed? None. Good. And I did thank Collins, saying we weren't gonna do that. I had the original one. So we have a motion that, I'd like another motion to authorize me to sign this contract.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. That's carried. Okay, I'll send it tonight, and I'll leave it in the office for mailing out tomorrow. Okay. Request from Judge Heidelmeyer for courtroom expansion. Judge, you have the floor.
So Jen's office is currently off the courtroom. To the south, there's a bookcase. And I talked with, Todd, with DPW guys, if we could take that wall there and then move that wall south, like down towards like the restroom area. And then, what I would like then to happen is once that office is expanded, is to be able to put a service type window like Kim and Jean have currently. Because then she could be, I mean, it's kind of a security thing a little bit too, sort of. But then she could deal with people that come in to drop off planning commission, court stuff, whatever. She would have a window, she'd be, secure. It would give more workspace, more efficiency, more whatever. I mean, she'd still have a couple windows up there. So I guess that's what I'm looking for. I would probably just do a design build, not an architectural experiment or anything like that.
DPW.
Probably like DPW Construction Company Inc. or something.
Do you have any rough,
Would be my recommendation.
have you got any rough numbers you guys looked at so far? or not?
No, we haven't even done that, so I just, that's why I just put it out there.
Okay.
If we could, if it's a possibility, then say, okay, have him look at it, get some numbers together, because I don't know what one of those windows costs. I mean, it's gotta be, and have a little counter like that, so.
Okay. Now, that also would take into account, it's gonna be another year probably before Jen is into the office.
No, she's not going down there though.
Let it change that part? What?
Yeah, she wouldn't be coming down there. She never was gonna go down there probably.
She's staying where she's at, yeah.
What works? What works out?
Right.
Okay.
And that premise come on what we did beginning of, end
Right, and then they expanded that already to the south.
Yeah.
Correct.
Basically doing the same thing. It's removing a wall and a closet and adding a pay window and a door.
Okay.
A little, it's cost-wise probably ain't looking at a whole lot.
Does that give you some judges' chambers back, will you?
Yeah, a little bit,
kind of
yeah,
split
yeah.
the
yeah.
space between the two
It just
of you?
works to have her there for when we're in court.
Mhm.
If somebody needs something, she can't be down, she can't have her office down there when we're dealing with something.
Oh, yeah,
in court.
court.
It just needs all to be there.
Mhm.
We still during court would not be able to take payment because that still would be the courtroom.
Okay.
So monies during actual court need to be down here still.
Okay.
But when there's no actual physical court appearances happening, she can take the forfeitures like she does currently up in that room.
Just in a more secure way.
Yeah, I mean, somebody can walk in there, she can keep the door closed, just like the door
Yeah.
down here.
Yep.
I mean, Flat Stanley maybe could go underneath the door or through
Yeah.
the window, but
Yeah,
Is that third
that's
grade or
about it.
fourth?
second, I think.
Second,
Great.
So could be,
Second
but,
grade.
but yeah.
makes sense.
So I guess that's what I'm looking at, is if you would say, hey Todd, look at this project, someday you're not plowing snow, get some numbers.
And a little sketch too, so the board can kind of see what you're kind of thinking of.
Okay.
And that's kind of instead, before we had talked about like a ring camera or all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
no, we were
This is
making- that's all
alternate-
Because our hope was that, once the police are over there,
Right.
we'll be able to move the election equipment and storage into like the chief's office,
Correct,
and then use the other one as records,
correct.
where the locker room is currently, and that would give Dan and Jen a lot more room.
Well, part of this, where the police were still gonna hold meetings in this building.
The corridor.
not
Yeah,
actually.
there'll be no public
So there's
interaction
still
in that new
space.
building.
Yeah, but the back room where they meet with people now.
Squad
is-
room.
The squad room will still be the squad room.
Okay.
Well, a portion of it. They're gonna wall it off. The chief has decided that he wants it walled off to the window, so it's just a small space, for interviews. It'll have an ingress and an egress if, there were to be some kind of an emergency. And then, Vince will still have room back there. So then the storage that's up there, that's where the old bathroom was, which is where currently secure police storage is, that will go over into the police facility. And then that will free up space for either court documents, town documents, what have you, and get more stuff out of the basement.
Okay, sounds like a plan.
I think someone should make a motion to move it forward.
I move that we authorize Todd to do some sketches and preliminary cost, for an expansion of the, court clerk's office area, judges' chambers.
Okay, you have a second?
Second.
Michelle, second, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, carries. Okay, item C, authorize Attorney Mills to investigate issues with surrendering a liquor license to the village of Mukwonago. Request was received from a Mukwonago business owner.
The village. Yeah, I thought I heard the village of East Troy was gonna do the same.
The village
Haven't heard
of
from
Mequon, any contiguous municipality can ask. Doesn't mean we have to, just
Right.
means, my suggestion is to authorize Jim to look into it.
We've had 2 inquiries from the same party in the village of Mukwonago that I am taking the calls on.
Okay.
Asking for
I know 1 or 2 people in the village of East Troy. but-
Nobody's contacted us
Yeah.
from the village of East Troy.
Right,
Yeah.
Well,
but maybe if they see this posting.
Mhm.
the request has to come from the municipality, not from a business owner.
Okay. And we did list, in the packet, there's 5 active, Class B licenses out there now, and 3 of them are vacant. So it's not as if we, are short. Okay, so, we did have a motion on that yet?
No, I ask, so it says that it would be a minimum of $10,000, what do we charge per year for the liquor license?
For our current,
Yeah.
because they fall in the town quota,
Right.
for a Class B recipe combination is $500. That's the maximum
year.
we're allowed to charge per state statute.
Right. But this will be like an initial
Permanent.
license,
Yeah,
once
like-
it transfers.
Yep, and once if we sell it to the village of McGuanago, the minimum is $10,000, but we don't get it back.
Never get it back.
We don't get that liquor license back.
Nope,
No.
it becomes the village of McGuanago's,
And then
In their
McGuanago
quorum.
will renew at 500
And
a year
we're
or whatever they do.
limited to the number, how many total
we have
liquor
8.
licenses?
We have 8. We're allowed 8, our quota is 8.
Okay.
That comes from the state?
And what was in effect when they switched over the laws way back when?
So it becomes 7 forever. If we
We'd be down to
sell.
7.
Unless our population increases
Yeah.
by 500 more.
Mhm. Yeah.
Is that when it would change?
Every census, it's reviewed?
Well, we get a population estimate every year, so.
So much per, one license per so many people, is that how it works?
It's, one license per 500, but like I said, when the state changed their laws, we had 8, we were able to keep 8, no matter what our population was at the time. So we currently have that 8, those 8.
Yeah, and we'd still be below that even if it came out to, we shipped to the 500 people, so, okay.
I make a motion that we authorize Attorney Mills to review the potential sale of a liquor license.
Second.
All right, we have motion and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, none, motion carried. Alright. Bill, you're up, vision, mission, strategic plan initiative, you put together what is it?
A motion, this is perfect positioning for this highly stimulating and exciting point of having a vision, mission, and strategic plan. Now, we could expand on it, but to the best of my knowledge, we don't have such documents, some such guidance. I think we want it based on past. Past, from my perspective, goes back several years, including work with the ad hoc committee. So in essence, I think organizationally, while we are not required to have vision, mission, or strategic plan documents, nor have we taken any formal action to this point, I would like to make a proposal that the Town of East Troy Board seek a qualified consultant to create its vision, mission, and strategic plan. That'll be the motion, but I am cognizant of the fact that vision, mission, and strategic plan are really 3 elements of what could be a much broader undertaking and conceivably a more expensive undertaking.
All right.
I thought on the agenda it says to schedule a special town board meeting.
If needed, it says.
Schedule special town board meeting if needed for further.
You just made a motion to.
I made a motion for the board to seek a qualified consultant to create its vision, mission, and strategic plan.
Would that be your option 2 listed in the, your write-up? Okay, so he's proposing option 2.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second, for the board, board may select a vision, mission, strategic plan as well as seek assistance from a qualified consultant, because it kind of dovetails into what you're doing right now. So,
So money,
Do we have,
money's one thing.
funding? Yeah.
No. It was not budgeted for
It
this
is,
year.
I do make that observation in fiscal note.
okay,
It's not in the budget, but I also heard there may be unspent ARPA funds up towards of $6,000, which would be a consideration if, I believe, Michelle, you may have been looking for a consultant. I think Lars has been looking, I've been looking. There are names out there, but if it's $6,000 versus $60,000, that's
sure.
what
Yeah, that would lead into, we get to the point where that recommendation comes from your committee to the board. This is just basically saying that, well, that's what we're doing, you know, so I think that's a good deal, and then we'll have to make a determination at that time, if we've got the money to do it now or not. There's more than one way to skin the cat, obviously, but, this is a proposal and a motion that was made. Further discussion?
Well, it's my understanding from Supervisor Wooker that he is not including the communications committee in this process at all.
That's correct.
Oh, you're saying, wait, who's gonna bring the, consultants, or the list, are you gonna start from scratch, you're saying? Okay, you're saying the board was going to.
I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Barb, Michelle, I believe you've been searching for such an individual, as have I, and I've already identified 4 companies of interest, but they need some specificity in terms of timeline, budget, scope of the project. And the least, in my opinion, to start off is vision, mission, and strategic plan. You wanna take on the other organizational pieces like job descriptions, performance evaluations, costs will go up. But we have a history of wanting to do this, not doing it, and not doing it, so.
Well, it was started.
It's been started, it's been talked, it's been kicked around, and I think the board, from my knowledge and my experience, in all of the work we've done since I was elected in April, I think the department heads and the board can create that document. Is that the end of it? No, I think the community needs to weigh in on it if they agree with the vision, mission, and strategic plan that we come up with. And we may say, well, let's finish that in 2023 and add elements of some of which I mentioned in the 2024 budget.
Okay.
Because we're still looking for some sort of job performance or evaluation or job descriptions. This is not the totality of the project, but it's, in my opinion, it's a 6-month project, affordable, and it gets off the inertia.
Okay, I'm having a hard time in connecting it. I understand totally what the motion is and what the option is, you're recommending. I think that dovetails into where we're at right now. I mean, you both did work on this already, and Bill, did you share what you had? What anybody had at all, as far as the people you've been working with on this, or no?
It was requested, but
No.
not provided.
Okay.
Michelle and I talked, Michelle sent me an email about 3 weeks ago, asking me names. Since that time, I've had 3 companies entertain the thought, and I don't think any of the 3 are interested, but I think I have a solid lead on someone for the project.
All right, so will you anticipate you bring what you have to the board and you bring
Yes.
what you have to the board?
Yes.
Would you anticipate that as being workable?
I guess depending on the budget, right?
Well, the budget, I'm get to a point of saying, here's what the board can consider for how we would move forward. Bill is saying is, he'd like to see us get professional help. We all need that.
Well, it's somebody who understands townships, has done this before, understands government. It's not somebody, in my opinion, that needs to have extensive surveying skills or focus group skills. It'd be a small group they'd be working with. Once the product is finished, vision, mission, values, strategic plan, I think then it behooves us to take that out to the public and say, have we captured what you think your town government is? Have we captured what we say the town of East Troy is?
And I think our discussions with Bob and the communications committee were, we would really want that input up front, and we would wanna like specifically invite community members or business groups or, activities, people in the community. Because when you just put something out there as an open meeting, you don't get the same participation, so we were thinking that would be in the early planning stages to invite specific businesses or participants.
Well, we still need a consultant to help us through that. That's the
Well,
bottom line.
to get to the finish line, That's what we're saying, that's what the motion was. And I think we've all kind of thought that we're kind of heading that way anyway. That's the way it happens, whether it's a SWOT analysis or a different methodology to get to that point. It is, you know, it is something that, yes, we've been saying we're gonna do, and this is, I guess, pushing it forward.
You know,
Define it,
as,
so-
as Mr. Jones has discovered, most townships, they don't do it, they don't have it. But it's something, in my mind's eye, and working in government for 40 years, gosh, it's nice to have it. It just makes, you can point to something out there, and yet you got your hand on something that's home base. You know where you're at, you know your values, you can describe what you do. It's just clean. And again, my intention would be to have it, I think I write it in my proposal, there's no secret. It's the elected officials and the 3 department heads. For a short-term project, probably 6 months, maybe. There'll be, I'm sure there's gonna be assignments, there's gonna be small group discussion. I think those will have to be open meetings, but will the public attend, maybe? Will they be invited? That wasn't my intention at this time. I'm just trying to get something finished and out there that is representative of the elected officials. After all, the 5 of us were elected to represent the interests of the community. And bring into that mix the 3 department heads, no offense, Gene, but the 3 department
Okay.
heads that I've been working with on all sorts of projects, and it's a very dynamic, insightful group.
Okay, all right, we have a motion and a second. Hearing more further discussion. On the motion, all in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed? None. All right, we're on.
I would suggest that we do need to schedule a special board meeting, and apparently with the
Figure
3
this out.
department heads to define a scope.
We don't have Chad here, so we don't necessarily do that, but, so you would say, let's have a kind of a joint meeting with the board and the committee and department heads to see how we get to the next step.
In my mind, if we know the N is 8, there's 8 active ingredients. And Jim, I didn't include you in that.
I don't need to be part of it.
So, with respect, I agree. What I'm saying, the timeline to me is critical and the budget's critical. So I think what we have to do is say to anybody we've identified in 6 months, in 9 months, for $6,000, what could you do relative to a smaller township's vision, mission, and strategic plan?
It's my understanding that $6,000 is for newsletters.
Oh, I think he was talking about the reading part. I haven't looked at that for a while. I don't know where we're at.
Did I requested some budget this year.
Yeah.
3,000 or 4,500, I think, for
Yeah.
newsletters.
Yeah, but there's still the ARPA money left, which I thought that was designated for newsletters and stuff like that.
And that,
How much is on?
I can't give you an exact figure right at this moment right now.
so, I guess.
So that's
it's-
why I think a meeting would help, to see what we're talking about for a scope and budget.
I don't know if we'll have a budget without having a consultant. I don't know how we could get that. I do think having a meeting to ferret out how we move forward on this is a good thing.
So in order to get a consultant.
Michelle
budget.
and Barb, have we
I'm
gotten to
sorry, in order to
that
get-
level of detail with people you're talking to in terms of how long, how much, who?
Not yet.
No.
No.
Neither? Okay. I have, and I think it's unless there's some money available, less than 10, 6,000, I don't know that we can pull it off in the short term.
That was my point, we need a budget before a scope.
Okay. Let's revisit this one here a little. I mean, I'd rather do this March when everybody else has their information in hand, current status on the people you got, current status you got, and then me and Kim will look through the budget numbers here and make sure we know where we're at. I'm not quite sure where we are with the landfill fund either. We have designated part of that for this project too. So, but I don't see a crunch there, this is not.
It's not, see, the beauty of this is, it's not urgent, but it's important. So it's in the wheelhouse of where good public servant should be.
So someone making a motion to table scheduling that meeting to March?
I'm just putting it on the March agenda.
I'm just putting it on the March agenda.
Yeah, it's good. Well, it's noticed though as scheduling it, what Jim's saying is this, we are.
Make a motion to table the special town board meeting regarding the vision, mission, and strategic plan.
Okay,
Second.
Barb, second. On the motion, all in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed?
Was that different than my motion? That was.
Yeah, this is not the motion, this is about scheduling the meeting.
Scheduling.
Yes,
Oh, this is the second item.
yes.
To table that.
Okay. Let's be out of here. All right, attorney's report, Attorney Mills.
The only item is my draft proposal for a snowplow agreement for private roads. It's 1 page in length. I reviewed all the samples that were provided to me and found some additional ones. Decided that the most important thing is to have one signed document on record with language that says that they're hereby consenting to future special assessments, so we don't have to do it every year, which would be nearly impossible. And second, once they sign it, then we have the limit of liability. That was a concern that Mr. Zess raised. So this document, the hold harmless language, yeah, that's in paragraph 4.
Okay, there's really 2 parts to this. One part is what road are we gonna go down? And the road that we provided a document on so far here is a contract. And in doing our research, actually Todd and I both seen it, how we got to this point is people on a road, a private road, petition the town to do it, okay?
But I don't know if there's a petition for each of the private roads that we do.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it'll take another couple hundred hours for us to go through the books again, look at that. But the thing about that is, that's how it got there. And we know that, you know, town of Delavan, and of course, you could check with their attorney too, but they have twice the amount of private roads that town of East Troy has. And they don't have a written contract that way.
But Bill does for his property up north.
That's for his
That is it.
driveway.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's driveway,
okay.
not a road, yeah. But anyway, you had mentioned at one time, Jim, that, payment of their tax bill is essentially a contract. And the only thing that's different here is similar to when we had speed bumps on Ishar, a safety car gets thrown out and then it changes how the perception is on whether something is, appropriate, legal or illegal or whatever. We know it's not illegal. We know we're doing it by statute.
Well, we're not. Statute references a contract.
Well, I just quoted you that said that payment of their tax bill was a contract, essentially a contract, not,
Yes, that would be the third prong of a contract. That would be the consideration part of it.
okay,
But you don't get any, other than well, you wouldn't have any governmental immunity on a private road if a homeowner were to suggest that they never gave their permission for you to be on that road doing what you're doing in the first place.
okay, gotcha. And then the other element is, how many people are we talking about here? 250?
257.
257.
269.
259. So, what's gonna happen here is, I'm just playing devil's advocate here, you send this to those 259 people, you're never gonna have, not say never, you're most likely never gonna have a consensus that all of them sign it. So if I heard it right, and the way you would interpret that would be if one person says no, we don't do it. that correct? If one person had a road, cause what they did before.
I don't know how you could.
Hmm?
I don't know how you
I don't know
could,
how you could either, it was.
unless they're at the very end of the road.
Yeah, right, right. So, chance of that working, probably not good, because this, there'll be people that just, for no other reason, that just maybe spite their neighbor, or say, well, I'm in Arizona or Florida all winter, I don't care what the hell happens here. You're gonna have that. So what's gonna happen here is by going down this road, you're gonna have probably 260 very irritated people.
I know it could happen, but that doesn't change what the statute says.
That's why I bring it up, so that's the question. So the statute, in your view, contracts will be interpreted to be written contract.
Yes, because you're never going to be able to hold this hold harmless language against, or to be used against someone if it's not in writing.
Gotcha.
That
That's the
portion
difference.
of it, that's the difference,
Okay.
the liability portion.
I don't think we've had one in 40 years or whatever, but that doesn't change it. Okay. All right. The other part, and Kim, you got probably some intent or some idea on this, but this is being handled as a special assessment. Okay.
Correct.
Garbage is handled by special assessment.
Correct.
Are you saying the difference here is town provided service versus a private contractor? Is that how the special assessment is different? That ends up on a tax bill without a written deal?
Right, and as I explained to Bill on the phone, there is something in the law called unjust enrichment, where if a benefit is provided to you and you did not pay for it, you could be sued for the reasonable cost of that benefit that you were given. In a roundabout way, that's kind of how this special assessment is working. We are providing a benefit to them, and they're paying us the $35, which is gonna be subject to review. I think the only portion that's different is that liability
Okay.
section of it. That's the only thing that makes it different.
Okay.
Plus, it gives them the option in here too, that, they will be charged on a yearly basis unless they notify us in writing the service is no longer required. Well, you think that's ever gonna happen? No,
Oh, yeah.
but are you gonna get them to sign it in the first place is the question.
Yes.
We're gonna send out 260 some letters and maybe get 35 back. People are gonna go, why do I need this? I paid on my tax bill. And
Or they're gonna go, okay, now I have an option, I'm not gonna pay for this, I'm in Florida.
But we're not required to plow any of these roads.
No.
Yeah, but
So
how
we
do
can
you-
say, turn in your form or we're not plowing.
But
But
again,
how do you plow the front and the back end who signed it? And then you've got three in the middle who don't turn it in or
That's,
sign it.
yeah, that's a problem.
And you don't-
and my
I don't know.
80-year-old auntie lives at the end and she needs she needs an ambulance and the ambulance can't get down that road.
And that's our liability.
Correct.
It really would be, even though it's somebody else is responsible for it, it's our roads.
Yep.
That way.
What's a private road?
Yeah, it's a
But-
private road,
It
but.
doesn't
it's the
matter, if
services.
somebody needs EMS service,
Yeah.
they need the road plowed.
We're
Which
responsible.
is how I think we've gotten this far. I'll be honest, most of our research was for plowing private driveways, not for private roads. Almost all the examples I saw were for private
When
driveways.
the law
Which
changed
then
now too,
absolutely you
about
want a
parking lots.
contract for.
Yes, that makes
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, this is a conundrum.
Well, and we also, as elected officials, need to say, we've got 257 households,
59.
2.5 people per household, so about 500-600 people. So there's, on the other side of the equation, there's about 3,000 town residents who would say, you better get liability protection for us in the event that, God forbid, there's property damage. So the vast majority of people would probably want that contract signed.
Well, I agree with you, because, again, I made that reference to the speed bumps, it's the same type of issue, because it has now been brought specifically to our attention, and that word is mentioned, so we hire you to give us opinion on that, okay? And your opinion is we should do this. That's your
If
opinion.
you want the liability protection angle of it, it has to be written.
Okay.
You can't have, a special assessment for a benefit provided does nothing to provide you with that extra immunity.
So how does that differ from the garbage? How does this differ from the garbage again? Because there's also an additional charge for people on
Because
private roads that they
municipalities
can't.
have to provide garbage refuse
To all
collection.
residents, these are
We don't
private
have
roads
to
versus-
provide private
Private
road
roads.
snow plowing.
Yeah, it's not a,
But
it's
we
not a
have to
part of-
provide fire and EMS and police.
True.
But it's their responsibility to maintain and secure the private road.
then-
And they could have private entity do it.
They chose to live on a private road, right?
And a private contractor is gonna say, I'm not taking that on.
Why?
Jim will
They
pay,
take some big money
Gene
to
will
do
pay,
it.
I'll say, I'm not paying, and
They're not gonna do it.
they're not, how's
Oh, I
that
see what
gonna-
you're saying, man.
They're
They-
not
They'd be
gonna-
in the same
They're
boat
not gonna try
as.
and get 52 contracts on Shorewood Drive.
Yeah.
Shovel it.
They're not gonna get 52 people
Yeah, I
on
just-
Shorewood Drive to sign off and plow
Did
it.
you ask that question to the town of Delavan, and what they do when, some of those roads, the contractors were told, go ahead and do it, and they
Yep.
refused?
They refuse.
They said,
The
I
private
have.
contractors refuse to do it. They have one municipality that opted out of it for the year and begged the township to come back. Cause it took forever for the private contractor to get down there. And the contractor did it 1 year, and once they found out the charge of it, they were like,
Yeah.
And they're assessed on theirs, they're charged by the amount of footage you have on the private road. And they're at 35 cents a foot.
Which is about half of what we would probably have.
Yeah, probably even less, cause a lot of them, Shorewood Drive, I know that from the road project coming up, a lot of their lots are 50 foot. So you'd be getting $50 instead of 35 at 35 cents a foot.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, 15
Yeah.
15 versus.
Well, my only
They
other
have contracts
suggestion
with
to
all their
you,
people.
my opinion is you should do this, and you need to do this. That doesn't prevent you from contacting Towns Association and getting a second legal opinion.
I've already got that, right? What did they tell you? Well, first of all, you know how they're gonna, you already know the answer. But go-
They're gonna look at the statute and say, here's what the statute says.
Towns Association said don't plow.
They say it's not worth the, headache. They didn't mention liability, did they?
No.
I think it was headache. Why do you need to do that?
Yeah, the
Well, if you don't plow, there's no additional liability.
Yeah, there is.
Right.
What if I don't get to the person at the end of the street with an ambulance when they've got a life-threatening situation?
How's the town responsible for
Well,
what
with the
people on
private road, that
roads
would be the
do?
residents to keep the roadway clear,
Exactly.
so EMS and fire
It's
can
not the
get there.
town's responsibility.
Town would get sued anyway.
Of course, these, they go after everybody in
Well,
the pockets.
We have to break deep pockets.
Yeah. So, and again, I talked to a couple of people around, too, at some of the meetings around the Lakes by Salem area. They do it, they don't have a signed contract, it's, what's the problem? And when I mentioned safety, well, yeah, you can say that about anything, but with us sitting here, that is kind of our job, isn't it? And it's Jim's job to protect us from getting sued. This is gonna tick off a heck of a lot of people, okay? And it's gonna probably take revenue away from the town, because
It's gonna take a
they're
ton
gonna
of
still work the same hours, whether they're doing the private roads or not.
If it ticks them off that bad, they'll sign this and get it back to us.
True. Well, kind of true.
I mean, 20% of those 259 people live on Shorewood Drive.
52.
And Bob
52 or
didn't think he could get them to all sign off on,
Bob said there's no way.
that's why
No.
we're putting the assessment on their tax bill, because they won't pay the money unless it's on their tax bill. And we don't have a
Well, the
contract
But
for
we
that.
can't force
We don't have a
the
contract
snow
for that.
plowing on them. If you wanna look at it that way.
Well, again, it started with a request, but you're right, if we try to go back in the record and say which road by which road, it's possible that the first time it was requested, nobody that was living there at the
I
time
know.
still lived
Todd and
there.
Joe reviewed the petition
What road was, just out of curiosity, was the petition
from,
from?
remember?
Oh,
To
which
plow
one was
their
it?
road, yeah.
Oh, I think I got my road
The
file.
file is right on top of my filing cabinet.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact road.
Cause that might,
County
It
Way?
was a subdivision.
So this summer, when it's beautiful out, Jeannie and I will shut down the town hall and we'll go door to door. It's gotta be a nice day though.
I mean, to make sure these get signed,
We need a golf cart.
just picture
but-
it as a-
ATV.
So,
In the town, you
so
can drive the
how-
ATV.
Not my business, never mind. I don't understand.
or
what
have
this
them
is any different than
available
what we're
at
assessing for the-
elections. If you live on a private road, pick up this agreement, review it, I need it signed and turned back in.
And then what did you say, how to get away from doing this every year?
In the draft that I sent, said that they hereby consent to have a annual special assessment charged to them, and that they further understand that the cost will change periodically, and they're consenting to that increase.
And we know from the newest numbers that we have available, we'd be figuring like $40 next year is what we see right now. The average times,
40, 45.
It's a reversal number.
but again, we're not gonna
Tax
say
rate.
number for that.
Yeah, a good point was just brought up is, I, the resident, and putting the address. So is it going to be in perpetuity for that property, or if there's a change in ownership?
You'd have to get the new person to sign.
So how do you,
And how is this different than what we're assessing on their taxes for the Shorewood Drive repaving project?
well, we did a resolution on that and
Did they
but they
give
requested
permission?
it and we did a resolution.
One
Yeah.
resident requested it.
They had a meeting.
They did.
behalf of the.
But not everyone agreed.
Yeah.
Well, that's similar to when the original request came in, not everybody on that private road said,
And
let's
I
do
will
this.
tell you, some townships had a representative of a particular private road that signed the agreement, but I didn't like that option, because how do I know that they were formally even nominated as that road's representative?
Are they who they say they are too, so. All right, well, I think, again, we normally follow legal advice. I think that's the road we're gonna go down. I think it's gonna be a very, very contentious deal. Okay? It's gonna cause some wars in neighborhoods, but that's where we're at. We can't. really
Well, and when
control it.
they ask, you know, why is this happening now, and say, well, it was brought to the board's attention, we didn't have a written contract, here's what we're looking to do, and it was suggested that,
We formalize the process.
right,
We'll just
I
give
mean-
them 5 phone numbers that they can call
Yeah.
and talk to you all about.
Those are private phone numbers.
And we also probably gonna need something on our website eventually to inform them what's coming,
certainly.
so. All right, well, how was this noticed here?
Just to discuss.
Discussion regarding draft snowplow agreement, well,
Yeah, you don't have to take action on it tonight, I'm just,
well, we're calling it a draft yet, is there anything you heard from anybody here that would change anything in this one pager?
I would just say one thing, if we're gonna do this, the sooner we do it while they're still having snow on their roads and they need to be plowed, the better luck we're gonna have getting it signed for next year, because if we're presenting this in June, they're gonna not care.
and they're calling for snow on Thursday.
So, that's my only thought, because this is gonna be a paperwork nightmare. But, you know, if we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it, but the sooner we can do it, the better.
And the only thing I would I would add, as Jean mentioned, is their parcel number on here. Besides the physical address of the property, the parcel number.
And tell them where to find it, because
Well,
most of them don't know what that is.
we're gonna have to fill it in for them anyway.
Well, it's on your tax bill too, right?
It doesn't matter, Joe.
No, I'm just saying, that's gonna be.
A lot of people don't realize that PA, PET, P.
Jim, if I
They don't
own a
realize
private
part of the
road, do I own the road, or do I own the piece of the road in front of my property?
And I give you.
And it's
I don't know if you have
Don't
an
know.
undivided interest in the entire road or just the part.
Just wondering if we just need a majority of the residents on a private road to agree.
I don't know that offhand.
And I can offer.
Because we're not gonna drop the plow and pick the
I can
plow
offer
off.
all of
No.
these,
So,
and just have to have
what's
them
my
sign.
responsibility?
Because in the spreadsheet, I actually have all the ones that addresses.
That I don't know.
Well, it'll go back to the point, like Jim said originally, if somebody on that road doesn't agree to that, that road no longer gets plowed, they get informed that it's not being plowed by the town.
And then their neighbors can collect the
Exactly. The neighbors
Yeah.
can
contract.
Again,
figure
it's
out
gonna
how
cost-
that
it's gonna
signature
cost
is
them
okay.
serious
We'll have to send a follow-up letter,
friction,
but then.
yeah.
And I can create a mail merge to put all the information in here except for like the date and the
So we might as
signature.
raise the price to like $50 or $60 because the amount of time and effort that we're putting
Just,
into
just double,
collect, yeah.
just double.
Administrative costs we
And
didn't
then
have
they
before.
can-
And postage.
Then they can call you all and say, why am I paying
double.
$150 from my 35?
Okay.
Because they
Still
didn't
cheaper than the
reply to
private
their,
contractor.
yeah.
All right, I don't know if we're gonna have much, argument back and forth on this or not, I would prefer that Chad be in the vote, but, it's kinda hard to say that now without knowing which way we're leaning here or whatever, but I think we have an attorney for a reason, and, I do think the advice we normally get from the town association is pretty solid, it's on the safety side of the, the pendulum for sure, or the safer part of it. But the sooner we get going on this, if we're gonna do this, the better. So, last point of discussion, would you like to vote on this tonight, or do you wanna push it to March?
Yeah, I gotta think about angering 500 people.
Mhm.
That's, in terms of leverage, that's a big number. I mean, you get elected with 500 votes.
Sometimes,
You know, Chicago mayors lose their job over snow plowing.
And I gotta bring up being person plowing the road. It's either they all sign it, and we'll do it, or if we miss 15 people, we're not doing it anymore.
I agree,
Whole
that's how
road,
we would
right.
do it, the whole road. So-
Well, you can still do the roads that you get 100% participation.
Right.
on.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Only those.
But he's not gonna plow, oh,
No,
Well, I agree, but
Because
should
it's not-
that be said in the contract? I mean, shouldn't that be
unless everyone
an education?
on your road signs this.
Or
will not
like
happen.
a letter that goes with the
A letter?
contract that explains this. This is what's happening, you live on a private road.
This is why it's happening.
Yeah.
so I'm gonna twist my neighbor's arm and say, sign it or else.
Right.
No disrespect
That's
to the
what's
three
gonna
elected
happen.
officials
Yeah.
present, Chad and I are the next two guys going up for reelection, so I don't see a pressing need to, do this now. I'd like Chad to be here for some more.
We thought,
Do we wanna schedule another a special meeting?
uh,
That way we can
Yeah.
also,
Tack it on to the.
Yeah.
That the,
we can finalize the numbers and the volumes and the residents.
Well, the numbers will change depending on what fuel costs, salt costs next year, everything like
Right,
that.
but I mean like the process of how we do it and,
Well, I
yeah.
think what Todd did was very,
Thorough.
thorough and complete.
I think going to the DOT was as explicit as you could get.
all right, well,
Like you said, is there administrative costs we need to add?
There will be.
Absolutely.
It's gonna be a lot of administrative
a
costs.
lot of, I mean, the first time, after that, it'd be would get less, I guess, but that means anytime there's a house sale.
And
How are we gonna know that?
track of that?
Hmm?
How are we gonna know that?
Yeah, cause we don't get special assessment letters for every sale.
No,
And that's
When the
that's a
tax-
thing
When the
that
tax
Dan-
bill goes out, you'll see there's a new person listed.
we don't
We
look
don't see
at
the tax bills. We don't look
2,500
at-
tax bills individually.
No.
You don't have to, you only have to look at 257.
But like Dan said, Dan made the comment over here that wouldn't it just be part of the sale? That, you know, you've got this, you've got this, you've got this, and this is part of,
That would
The
be,
way
should be part of a special
The
assessment
closing
letter.
but we
company,
don't get all
the
the
closing
special
companies
assessment
would
letters.
have
The
to
way
buy
it's
into
subdivision
that.
is
Yeah.
to share the
They'll look at
rules
that.
when you sell your house.
Okay.
And that ain't gonna happen.
Uh, I gotta think about it a lot more too. I'll put that on the March agenda, March 18th.
So we're starting at 9 o'clock on the 4th then.
No,
No,
Oh,
the regular.
the regular March meeting,
Okay.
the only 9 days difference. And Chad needs to, get up to speed on this one. So, all right, that's what we're gonna do. It's gonna cause a lot of controversy. Okay, public comments period number 2, anybody?
I'm in.
You're in. Push the button to this button.
Okay, on the trail that's gonna be between the village of East Troy, the town of East Troy, and the village of McGonigal. You know where all the trails are going to and from, what they're crossing? Are familiar with all that, Joe?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's gonna be in a town park, it's gonna be on the right of way in some spots, and it's gonna be all the way to the, park of McGonigal. On the north,
I'll detail that after you're done.
okay, the northern, the park of McGonigal, and then on the, south end, it's gonna be the Mill Pond
Yes,
Park of East Troy. So, do they plan on plowing that in winter?
the maintenance was responsibility being for where that underlying ownership is, in the village they do it, in the village.
But overall, do they plan on
Yes.
keeping the trail open all year round?
The thing was a recreational trail for hiking and biking, okay? And we never got to a point of saying, should it be open like for snowshoers? I think it'd be plowed. I mean, the normal deal.
Okay, well, if it's not gonna be plowed, can you go to bat, because the majority of the trails in the town of East Troy, can you do like what they do on 120, and they allow the bike trail to be used as a snowmobile trail in the wintertime?
That would be something that, you know, hasn't even been discussed.
I know, but that's why I'm here.
I hear you.
Okay.
I really-
All right, is the overall project total gonna be $8,300 or $8,200? Or is that just the preliminary part of it?
Where'd you get that number from?
I got 7 pages on the trail right here.
No, $8,200.
Yeah, it's, right here.
The village is the lead agency on it.
Yep.
So that must be for the grant.
Yeah, it all originates here in the village of East Troy, but I got 7 pages on it, they talk about it. All right, I'm done talking about the trail, you guys can comment on it or do it. The part I'm gonna say right here, the town's not probably gonna be real happy with me, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I think it's a terrible idea to give up a liquor license, and I'm gonna say why. I've got combined, 20 years of work at Dockside, I've got 10 years of work at Lindy's, and 20 years of work at Fred's. So I've got 50 years of what I'm telling you, just because I know. The town of East Troy used to have a lot more bars. Right now, we currently have one bar that serves 4,020 people, one active bar. We're the storage capital of the world. If you want to store anything, we got plenty of storage buildings, but we have no bars. So the golf course will be operational this year, which is about a bonus. We don't know what's gonna happen at Double D's moving forward. Hopefully there'll be a bar there. Lindy's will not be a bar because of the, political winds here. We're not gonna have a bar there. So we don't have Rungies anymore. We don't have the bar that we used to have on Army Lake. And we don't have Willy Millie's, on Highway ES, which is the current, site where Carl Flair lives. and we don't have Javel's anymore, so we have no bars anymore. So for the 20, it's gonna take you 20 years to make up that $10,000 you're gonna get. Why are we gonna make McWanago happy and give us other license over there? I think it's a terrible idea.
All right, in regards to the trail, indeed it does start at the Mill Pond Park, south of the village, goes through the old Trent 2 property, which they are currently surrendering to the village for that use. It gets onto the road right away at the cemetery we've been talking about, at Highway 20, stays in the 100-foot road right away, all the way until, I'm thinking of the road, Phantom Woods Road, I believe. There, I would hop off there and come down to County ES onto the existing recreational trail in the village on ES. That'll have to be widened because it's a foot narrow, maybe 2 foot narrow. And it ends up at Indian Head Park in the village of Quantico. As far as the vehicles, it was intended to be no motorized ever. That may change based on the person or the entity that funds it. They may dictate on uses. But I'll tell you that having a bicycle drive by your house versus a snowmobile is a big difference. So we haven't got to that point now to be able to discuss.
There's not many houses along that stretch though.
There's groups, there's a lot in town that wanna go. And then there's a portion right here, there would be some, so. But anyway, that's where it's at. I'm happy to see that it's at least getting some traction. It'd be nice to get a huge grant on that, because that would take care of the money issue. There is an intergovernmental agreement already in place.
I don't think anyone will sign it, but sure.
Well, the 2 villages in town did, because the counties won't. Counties did have their own county trails to take care of. Okay, anybody else public comments?
I'll offer a couple thoughts.
Okay.
One thing is on the snow plowing. Is it worth looking at a liability insurance for the town? It may be pricey, it may not be. Does it get you?
I don't think you can get that, because if you don't have permission to be on the private road in the first place, how are they gonna insure you?
Okay, just a thought, that's all it was. Brainstorming. The second thing was on the mission, vision, strategic plan. I come out of corporate, it is it puts a point on the spear for an organization, so I do agree, it's great to have. When we were having our discussions, the thought was, what do we wanna be when we grow up? We're getting sandwiched between Guanago and East Troy. How is that annexing gonna happen? Do we wanna make something out of the town, or are we just gonna become a service thing? And if you're gonna make something, where's the revenue come from? There's a lot of factors that go into making that decision. And the thought was maybe before jumping into that strategic planning activity, think through those things. That was all, the only comment they had. All right?
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Public comments, anyone? Good? All right, thank you. Good input. Licenses and special events permits.
We have one special events permit for a fishing jamboree on Lake Beulah on August 2nd. Ooh, typo there, sorry about that.
That'd be hard to read.
2023. Anyway, from 5 to 9:30.
It's not August, right, for ice fishing?
August, yep, August 2nd.
It's a fishing jamboree, not an ice fishing jamboree.
Oh,
Fishing
Oh.
I
jamboree.
read the same thing too.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is
Nope.
just
And
2023.
Each fisherman would pay the regular launch fees and whatnot, so they're just asking to.
Is that the first time we had a summer one? We have ice fishing.
Well, every Tuesday night, there's a bass fisherman thing that they do. This is just a one-time kind of thing.
I make a motion to approve the Paul Novak Fishing Jamboree special license for August 2nd.
All right, Bill, second, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye, opposed? None, motion carried. All right, special and pending meetings.
Okay, for the rest of this week, we have Thursday and Friday till 5. Tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock is the public test of the voting equipment. February 15th at 6 o'clock, as I mentioned earlier, is the Booth Lake Memorial Park Board meeting and the Pavilion Lottery at the Town of Troy Town Hall. February 27th is the next Communications Committee. February 21st from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. is the spring primary. We are hoping to have a Badger book set up so everybody can see it. March 1st and the 15th are the next Planning Commission meetings. March 4th, the Saturday at 9:45 a.m. Or do you want to go earlier?
We have just 2 items on that?
Three, electric Trinity Bridge, asphalt sealer, and the sidewalk DOT.
Yeah,
9:30.
9:30, okay. March 6th and 20th are 6:30 are the next Communications Committee meetings. March 13th is the next town board meeting. Starting March 21st is the start of the next period of in-person absentee voting. March 28th at 9 o'clock is a public test of the voting equipment, and April 4th is the spring election.
Okay. Oh. Empty. All right, that's it, that's all we have. We're gonna pay bills here. You're welcome to stand up there, sign some checks. Or not. And, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Shall second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.